Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please join me in the council prayer. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Please join me in honoring America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Councilor Mendonça.
Here.
Councilor Murcia.
Here.
Mayor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Murphy.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Dakota.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Councilor Martin.
Here.
9 present.
First order of business would be to approve the minutes of the April 13th meeting for acceptance. Motion by Councilor Murphy, seconded by Councilor Mendonça to accept and place on file. All those please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? To vote. Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. I wonder if it would be okay if we took a motion out of order that I filed. There are a number of residents
Yes.
here, and so I'd like to make the motion to take an item out of line.
Motion by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Martin to take Councilor Elliott's motion regarding a building construction on Fairview Street out of order. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? To vote. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. The motion speaks for itself, but there are a number of residents here. There's currently a building, a proposed building construction on Fairview Street in the city, up in the Belvedere section of the city, and the residents have a number of concerns with the size, with the slope, the grade, and in general, just the entire proposed construction. It's been before the Historic Board. It's been recessed for 30 days pending additional information, and I think there are a number of residents that would like to speak on the issue and voice their concerns.
If I could get the motion on the floor. Again, it's a motion by Councilor Elliott. City Council requests the city manager to report on the proposed building construction on Fairview Street. Second by Councilor Murcia. We do have, as Councilor Elliott indicated, some residents from the Belvedere section who would like to speak. I don't know if I need a suspension.
Motion to suspend the rules to allow folks to come up
Motion
and
to
speak.
suspend the rules by Councilor Elliott,
So
seconded
moved.
by Councilor Broderick. Suspend the rules to allow people to speak on the motion. If anybody would like to come speak, come to the podium, your name and address, and we have a 5-minute rule. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Linda Zappelli. My husband Robert and I live at 25 Fairview Street, Lowell. We're here this evening to ask the members of the council to consider casting their vote in favor of this motion, because in spite of the fact that this development project is currently undergoing Lowell Historic Board review, most of the issues being brought forward this evening are outside the scope of that board. They present great concern to members of the neighborhood, and these concerns are amplified because it appears that there's no public hearing process to air them, and therefore no way to bring them to the attention of the appropriate departments that may need to be aware of them during their decision-making process. I'll just briefly go over a few issues, and then others will come forward with their concerns and greater detail, and we've made every effort to forgo redundancy. So, first, preliminary results of an investigation being conducted privately indicate the possibility of a case of infectious invalidity stemming from the splitting of a parcel by the approval not required plan. It appears that the parent lot has pre-existing non-conforming issues with frontage, side yard, and possibly the garages. Second, the topography of the lot is clearly problematic and precarious for the development of an infill project on the side of a hill in the heart of a historic district. It is significantly below street level, sharply graded, and it's closely surrounded by well-preserved example of Lowell's late 19th century historic homes. The grade of the lot does not appear to meet code. There are other code issues that'll be brought forward, but they pertain to grade of driveway and dimensional requirements, but I'm just focusing on topography here, again, in an effort to not be redundant. Again, due to topography, there are concerns that the existing problems with water runoff that were introduced during a backfill activity that occurred in 2005 will be further escalated. This is of great concern to the homes below this lot on Talbot Street. Third, there are concerns that the surrounding historic homes will be damaged both during and after development as a result of the use of heavy equipment, further changes to topography, and the resulting settling. This is not speculation. Damages resulting from water runoff, settling, and shaking have already occurred during and after backfill and tree removal activities. It would be greatly appreciated if it were possible for the appropriate departments within the city to pursue this matter. We hope you'll consider these factors as well as the other valid issues being brought forward and consider voting in favor of this motion. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address this council.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Excuse me. My name is Robert Little. My wife Kim and I live at 39 Talbot Street, which is immediately to the north and significantly downhill of the proposed development and proposed construction here. I'd like to thank everybody in the council, city administration for hearing us tonight. Our concerns with the project really stem back a number of years, but more recently there's been a significant amount of work that's already been done on site, including the removal of a great number of trees on site, including the limbs of some very old, very tall oak trees. I realize you are all just getting handed this packet. I apologize, but I'd like you to allow me the opportunity to flip through it real quickly and hit on some of the major points. The second page there, excuse me, is the site plan as it's been proposed, just to give you an idea of the grade of the lot, the size of the house in proportion to the other adjacent properties, adjacent homes. On the third page there, we really get into the nitty-gritty of this. A preliminary review of the zoning code indicates that to be considered a buildable lot, and I'll quote from the top of the right column there, at least 90% of the lot area used to satisfy the minimum lot area per dwelling unit or minimum lot area requirement must not be designated wetlands used for a surface drainage system, of which none is shown, or have a grade in excess of 8%. If you're looking at the plot on the left, the dashed lines are the existing contours, is my understanding. Doing some quick math over the length of those property lines, which again was not dimensioned on the plan, but we were able to locate that information. The grade along the west side of that property is approximately 16.6%, which is over double the allowed slope, and the grade at the west edge of the property, the east was that, the west edge of the property was 11.7%. That if you use the top of the proposed retaining wall, which we also think is problematic, the slopes both also exceed 8.3 and 14.6%. So either way you cut it, this is a very problematic lot as far as slope is concerned. Another issue here is with regard to the proposed slope of the driveway and access for emergency vehicles, police and fire, so forth. City Zoning Code 6.7.3 excuse me, indicates that for a distance of 30 feet off the public way, the slope cannot exceed 6%. Preliminary calculations that I'm showing show a slope of an estimated slope of 13% over the length of that 31-foot driveway. On page 4, bring up a few other historic board issues. New construction must consider, respect, and not adversely affect the overall character of the site topography, which has already been significantly impacted, and they're proposing to do even more, and the character defining site features, trees, and significant vistas. I've mentioned the trees. We'll get into it a little bit further later. Under Division of Planning and Development permitting process, page 20, there are permits required for retaining walls over 4 feet in height. They're listing this as a 4-foot retaining wall. However, if you look at the top of wall elevation at 234, and where it ties into the proposed contour lines at elevation 236, there's the apparent discrepancy there. Again, I'm in the property that's immediately to the north of this site at 39 Talbot Street. I'm terribly concerned about the size of the structure and the impervious material, making the water problems that we've experienced in our basement for the last 5 years significantly worse. A couple other points on this slide. The City of Lowell zoning code requires a minimum usable square footage of 750 square feet. That 750 square feet cannot be used for a surface drainage system. Again, none is shown here. We're not sure what they're planning on doing with the drainage, but a great deal of that back lot is significantly greater than 8% grade, in some cases as high as 20% slope. With regard to the tree removal, I just want to, while we're on the site plan here, over to the west edge of the site, the little circle there indicates where the approximately, I'd guess 100, I'm not sure, foot tall oak tree with one limb was actually cut. One of 3 limbs was trimmed off that tree. My understanding is they would have had to receive approval from the property owner at 62 Fairmount in order to go on their property and remove that limb. So I think there's a big issue there. The driveway, which is also not shown on the site plan for 62 Fairmount, is located just to the west of that tree's location. If you flip to slide number 5, again, Division of Planning Development General Design Guidelines put a height restriction on new development as 2.5 stories in this particular neighborhood. From the back, which is the view that my family and I will be looking at, this appears to be a 3+ story home. There's a garage indicated on the lower level around back, which I'm not quite sure exactly what the purpose of those garage doors are for. On slide 6, I'd like to bring your attention to some discrepancies that we noted on the plans. I realize it's very exceedingly difficult to see there, but there are some dimensional inaccuracies on the plan, which at the right-hand side you'll notice labeled bid set. I would assume that dimensional discrepancies would have been taken care of by then. There's also the square footage is listed on the first floor as 2,045 square feet. The site plan sign that was put up in preparation for the historic board hearing that was mentioned indicates a square footage of 2,965. The abutter notification that we received in preparation for that meeting was 3,800 square feet. So we're really not sure what the true square footage of this proposed structure is. Along those same lines, the plan here shows 2 bedrooms, the abutter notification, and the site sign indicated 3. With the depth of foundation there, again, we're really looking to be sure that enough due diligence has been performed to understand the level of subsurface rock, and if rock is going to be removed, how is it going to be removed to not impact the stone foundations, which are predominant in the area. The next slide here, zoning and planning issue, slide 7, gives a general indication of the site slope that we're dealing with, the number of trees that have been removed. Over 30 trees 6 inches in diameter have been removed from that site. Installation of the proposed retaining wall will likely require the removal of 7 additional trees. I read the Lorax to my kids at night sometimes, and that's all I think about when I head out there is just the clear cutting that has gone on this property. The next page shows a pretty telling photo of the very old elm tree, or excuse me, oak tree that's located on the property, not located on the property, is on the 62 Fairmount Street side. And that limb is too high to measure, but looks to be about a 2 or 3 foot diameter limb that was just trimmed off that property with no, to my knowledge, no city approval. Slide number 9, a few other issues I'd like to bring up. Stormwater mitigation is not something that's been addressed, whatsoever on at least the plans that I have seen. My wife and I and our neighbors to the west are going to be the primary recipients of that stormwater if an appropriate system is not installed. If they are looking to put in a stone dry well, it's not shown. Would there be mechanical pumping equipment to take it out of there? A leaching field or surface drainage system isn't really going to cut it because it's just going to end up dumping it into our basements anyway. Again, the site plan as it currently stands does not show the historic stone retaining wall that's actually on our property, which abuts this lot. We are not aware of any site survey that's been done or any borings that have been done on site, and we some members of the neighborhood are home during the day and would have seen such activity. Going back a few years on slide 10, our water problem started with this. In September of 2005, a great deal of fill, including stumps and logs and so forth, were dumped on this site over the course of a couple of days. Virtually overnight, it went from a nice green grassy field to a disaster area that you're looking at today. Again, the viewpoint from each one of these photos is listed there. Next page shows more of the same, although they did have the courtesy to grade that out a little bit, but the clay and dirt material that was dumped on the site, we never had water problems in our basement leading up to that dumping activity, and my fear is that the impervious material, which covers roughly 35% of the proposed site, is only going to make that worse. Next photo shows some of the water issues that we had. We had 18 inches of water in our basement. During one of the last storms, again, the first water problems we saw were in September of 2005, and flooding actually occurred while my wife was home pregnant in the spring of '06, when the water level raised to a point that it extinguished our hot water heater. Getting to the end here. Again, there's some photos of the existing site, some of the clear cutting and dumping activity that's gone on the site over the past couple of months, and more recently, as recently as a few weekends ago with the dumping of carpets on that site. It looks atrocious, and it has significant negative impact on the water in our basement. As I mentioned before, some of the trees that do still remain standing will have to be removed with the installation of that retaining wall. Last but not least, we took a look at the sun blockage that's going to recur as a result of this proposed project with the excessive building height that we're looking at. Our backyard will not see the sun for approximately 2 months out of the year, and our neighbors on Talbot Street to the east will have significant blockage of their afternoon sun. So last slide is basically just a written summary of the points that I brought up. So our goal really here is to make you folks aware of this, make sure that the project undergoes all of the appropriate, city department, planning board, historic board review, and the historic board's been incredibly helpful already. And just to make sure that no further damage occurs to the existing 120-plus-year-old homes that are all adjacent to, and in some cases very close to this site. So I thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak on this motion?
Hi, good evening. My name is Kathy Vasilakos. I reside at 46 Fairmount Street with my husband Harry, who's over on the other side, and our teenage daughter. My husband and I grew up in Pawtucketville. We've been homeowners in the city for 26 years. We spent 13 years restoring a home in the Highlands. The next 13 years have been working in our Victorian on Fairmount Street. We still have a lot of work to go, and our neighbors take great pride in their homes and their properties, all of which are historic and require much upkeep. I feel the proposal for the home before the Historic Board last week would be a detriment to our neighborhood on many levels. The concerns in regards to zoning and topography are not enough to consider. The footprint of the proposed home is absolutely huge, even in our neighborhood, with large homes. A 75-foot wide, 37-foot high, with a first floor measuring over 2,000 square feet. The addition of a second and third floor, along with partial height basement, would obviously bring the square footage to 5,000 square feet or more. I was going to hit on the signage differentials, but Rob had already done that, so I won't. The current property owners have proposed only completing the first floor of the building, leaving the second and third floor empty. In addition, the homes plan to be constructed dangerously close to the neighbor's home, which has been in their family for 3 generations. These facts, in addition to the large numbers of real estate transactions the current owners of the property have had within the past 20 years throughout several communities, shows a concerning pattern of building and flipping houses for a quick profit. Like my neighbors, I'm concerned not only for the size of this project, but the quality as well. The abutting neighbors have good reason to be concerned with the safety of their own homes. The architect assured us that structural damage to the adjacent properties due to construction would be compensated for. In order to guarantee some assurance of the security of the neighbors, I suggest an escrow account of at least $100,000 be established and maintained for a minimum of 15 years, if any construction is allowed to be built on the site. Based on the actions to date, such as the aggressive tree clearing on the property, our neighborhood does not believe the prospective builders have a strong interest in preserving its character. Who will be held accountable in 5 or 10 years when the property has been sold and structural damage occurs after the property settles? The neighbors who invested in our community need to be supported by it. It's our hope that the council will see fit to support our neighborhood and its residents in protecting their homes and their investments. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Kim Little. I live at 39 Talbot Street. Basically, it's kind of a recap, but over the last 4+ years, we have seen this lot at 24/22 Fairview Street go from a beautiful lush lawn to a dumping ground. It's a disgrace that it was allowed to get and remain in such a state. Over 30 mature trees were removed. Then debris from a construction site was dumped there. Then piles of fill were brought in and spread out. Although this is considered a buildable lot because of its size and frontage, we think there are zoning issues that need to be addressed before any permits are issued or any construction begins. We have seen this lot ruined without regard for the preservation of the neighborhood or respect for the neighbors. Due to the decimation of this lot, the topography has greatly changed, and our home and lot has been suffering because of it. We need to protect our homes and investments in this neighborhood and see to it that these historic homes are around for many more years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Joe Nardoni. I live at 45 Talbot Street. I'm the house that is right to the east of the Little's house. And one of the things that I think is really important here as you listen and you take a look at the information you've been given tonight is that there are just far too many odd, unusual, irregular things about the manner in which this project has gone forward that I believe that they just need to be investigated. Everything needs to be cleared so that we know that the folks really are doing their best to do things the right way. But when you have a house plan that's incomplete, when you have a house, an announcement that goes out that has 3 different levels of square footage in the house, when you have drainage issues that have attempted to be cleared up by adding fill that actually worsens the drainage, when you have all of these kinds of things coming together and bringing up all these difficulties for the neighbors surrounding and abutting the property, I just really believe that stuff needs to be looked at very closely, very carefully to make sure that the folks are actually, presenting themselves in a fashion that simply isn't disingenuous. Right now, with all the stuff that I see, the stuff that I heard at the historic board, I just simply, their testimony that they intend to downsize, building a house this size in that neighborhood, it just isn't credible. And that's why I'm really asking the council to support this motion and investigate this whole thing very carefully and thoroughly and make sure that everything is done correctly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Terry O'Connor, and I have resided at 124 Manses Street on Belvedere Hill since 1984. I'm a Lowellian, born and raised in Pawtucketville, and for 22 years I have worked as a community volunteer and a promoter of the arts in Lowell. I'm also a member of the Belvedere Hill Neighborhood Committee, working with Steve Stoll and the Historic Board. 5 years ago, September 2005, I, along with many other Lowell residents, left this very room excited and hopeful about the future of my neighborhood. That's when we successfully passed the Historic Neighborhood Act. Tonight, I have returned upset and frustrated that regardless, we have yet another development issue plaguing Belvedere Hill. Even though I am not an abutter to the Fairview lot in question, this issue has become very personal for me. Since my husband and I purchased our home in 1984, we have been directly impacted on two sides of our property involving subdivision of lots and new construction. As these were happening, we soon found out that we were powerless to even question them. My experience with in both of these cases is that things are pushed through the board so quickly that by the time we find out, the lot is stripped and we don't even have time to question it. One lot, which is the Wyman Street side, and several others directly below us on Mansour Street, the latter of which is still incomplete, strewn with litter, completed driveways that have no homes, and up until last week, heavy construction machinery that was allowed to sit there for several years doing absolutely nothing. It's an eyesore, it's a disgrace, and it's unacceptable. The only good thing is that we have acquired some lovely new neighbors, and that is a good thing. Belvedere Hill and Andover Street are one of the most beautiful historic neighborhoods in the city. The people who own these homes live and raise their families here. We all have invested time and money into our properties. We lovingly maintain their integrity. This example encourages other people from outside of the city to want to live here. We love our homes, and aesthetically, we make the city proud. Personally, going through this process with the Fairview lot, I've heard again and again about the owner's rights, the developer's rights, and the zoning laws protecting them. I ask you, members of the City Council, what about us? We pay some of the highest taxes in the city. Who's protecting us? Are these the rewards we can expect for our good deeds? This is wrong. I'm here tonight to request, on behalf of myself and my neighbors, that the Historic Neighborhood Act passed in 2005 that we understood was to protect us from development that adversely impacted the neighborhood be carefully re-examined. If it doesn't have the sufficient power to protect us, then shouldn't we amend it to give it the necessary power? As it stands now, there's too much confusion and too many unanswered questions. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you.
My name is Audrey Orfanos. I occupy 16 Talbot Street along with my parents who own the property. There is great concern in our neighborhood because, again, as everyone has spoken before me, we're not really quite sure about the solidity of the plans. We see that on one border of this property, there is approximately 10 feet. And there is an enormous monstrosity of a house. I believe the paperwork would state 3,800 feet. Is that correct? Square feet in this house. And they're stating that they will not occupy the second and third floor. I find that absolutely ludicrous. Who would build a home of this size and not occupy the second and third floor? Secondly, when you're building a house 10 feet away from someone else's property line, when you go to bed, you will be nearly arm's reach with your neighbor. Certainly, we are a friendly neighborhood, but I believe that when you look at the plans and you explain them more cohesively so that we can build trust and keep trust with the plans and the architects. And certainly this is a wonderful country in which we can build our own home of whatever size. But when you're looking at this square footage of this proposed home, you will find that nowhere let me correct myself, only 2 homes in Belvedere Hill have that type of size and square footage. 16 Talbot Street, I believe, is under 2,000 square feet. So please keep in mind the size of this house, how it's affecting the drainage, and how it is closing out the neighbors. Certainly, in their proposal and in their drawings already, you can see that they are not adhering to the wall height, and that they have almost doubled that height, and that is in the plan. And also, one final thing, what I find so frightful about this is you get this very enthusiastic builder coming in with his great, whatever it is he's coming onto the property with, and destroying the trees. And so some would say, why is this a big issue? Why is this a problem, cutting the trees? Were it not for our neighbor to be home and call the appropriate individuals, that oak tree would have been removed that day at that time. And so all we're asking from you today is that you clearly take a look at the reality piece and keep our neighborhood in the way it was meant to be preserved. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? The chair recognizes the maker of the motion, Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did take an opportunity to go out to the site and take a look at the lot in question. I think the residents have, we should thank the residents for, first of all, of the homework. They clearly have done their homework on this issue and have done very good research on all of the issues that are outlined in this report. So as the motion states, Mr. Manager, looking for a report and to answer all the questions on the last page, if you will. I also had some questions immediately when I saw the number of trees that have been removed. We did adopt a tree ordinance that deals primarily with public land, but I did speak to the solicitor briefly. I thought there was a provision, or there are some stipulations where if it's in close proximity to public property, that there are some restrictions or some guidelines. So clearly, as we listen to all of the comments from the residents, there seems to be so many inconsistencies, not only within the proposed building construction itself, but along with all of the other stormwater runoff issues. There's so many concerns to the neighborhood. I think most importantly, the ordinance that we did adopt to establish the historic nature of that neighborhood did serve its purpose, because notification was given, and I think that's what triggered neighbors taking a look at the footprint. It's a very, very large home for that neighborhood. And those neighbors, you have to go out and take a look. They're all fieldstone foundations. So any level of activity out there with large equipment is going to have some bearing on those homes. I mean, there's not even mortar in some of these foundations. So I think there are some serious concerns. There are clearly, they're all legitimate issues that have to take place. I think as we were talking about this yesterday, what was interesting, I'm not so sure why there hasn't been a survey done on this property. That seems to be one of the first things that's done. Neighbors have not seen anybody out there, taking a look at it. So I think the first speaker spoke to that. Is there a pre-existing non-conforming use? Some of the neighbors did some research on the deeds. Interestingly enough, when the land was transferred to the new property owner, the numbers changed from 24 Fairview to 22 Fairview. So there are a number of issues that really warrants the city taking a very close look before a permit is issued. Clearly, the historic board, they have certain design issues within their purview, But I think the neighbors have spoke very eloquently and articulated the issues of their concerns and legitimately need to be looked into. So that's the motion, Mayor. Look forward to the report and working further with the neighbors as this on this issue.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott. Councilor Broderick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a good motion, and first I should disclose that I live around the corner from this particular property, and I'm very familiar, walk by, well, now that it's warming up a little bit, walking by frequently with my kids, so I'm very familiar with the area and the size of the homes there, and although many of the homes are large, this does strike me as a little bit odd, the way the whole thing's been brought forward. I did get some history from Mr. Little about a week ago, and I think that obviously we need to get a report, but I think the key here is we need to establish who does what in a situation like this. We've got the historic board. I think I was on the historic board when the legislation was passed by the council with these historic districts, and it may be a case, as was brought forward by Ms. O'Connor, that that we may have to revisit that if it's a notice that we're looking for, this served the purpose. If there are restrictions that we intend to do, then I think we may need to revisit it. My memory being on the historic board, it was more of a notice issue and not to restrict residents from what they could build, and I think it was only triggered if there was certain square footage added, and I think that was a first step, because I think at the time the city was just starting to change a little bit in terms of the restricting building, and I think it might have been a first step, but I think that maybe something, if we could get that included in the report also, through Mr. Mayor to the manager, and in some type of sense of who has jurisdiction in this issue. And this is something that if it's an approval not required lot, which I would, I guess, reserve my judgment till we hear from the solicitor, based upon some of the data provided this evening, it looks like there may be some legal issues, I guess is probably how I would say, phrase it, in terms of slope and whether it does qualify. I assume that might be an engineering issue, that even if it's an approval not required, as they say, an A&R lot, that this is looked at before a building permit is issued. And maybe we can get some, included in the report is when is this done, what's the process, so that it's important for this neighborhood, which is my neighborhood, but it's also, I think, important. There are other historic districts in the city that I think we're going to need to. This needs to be addressed citywide, and it's a little concerning here, the process, how it's all come down, and I think that if maybe we need to take a look at this whole neighborhood, the historic, to give it some teeth maybe, but I think if we could get that information, it would be helpful, and give the neighbors some direction as to where this can go. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I received a call last Monday morning, and I told the constituent I would be up Monday afternoon at 22 Fairview Street. And I was up there, and I talked to one of the neighbors. I spent a good hour and a half there. And you know, Mr. Mayor, when you walk into a site and you say, this doesn't look right. Well, this does not look right. First of all, I discovered whoever owns the property, they're using it as a dump. Rolls of carpeting on the empty lot. At least 24 to 30 empty beer cans. And what I witnessed was a total disrespect for the abutters on the left, the abutters on the right, and the people on Talbot Street. No respect at all. And they could not have professional tree cutters cut these trees, because that tree, Mr. Mayor, that limb should have been cut on a bias. It's just sitting there, open to the weather, and if that remains that way, that tree will rot. And one of the speakers indicated how if this house is built, it will block out the sun. And that's exactly what will happen. Now, I know there was a meeting Monday evening with the historic board. I did check into the whereabouts of the meeting and how the meeting went, and I understand there are some problems with this site. Mr. Manager, do what you have to do to make this right. If this home was built there, the size of this home, it will dwarf every home on Fairview Street and on Talbot Street, Fairmount Street, and aesthetically, it is wrong. And when you see something is wrong, you have to stop and correct it. Mr. Mayor, what's going to happen there, or what could happen there, is wrong. Wrong. And whoever owns the property, Mr. Manager, I wish to see the inspectors go back there tomorrow and make sure the dumping that's being done there is addressed and corrected. It is not right. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was nice to meet the neighbors. However, I'm a little bit baffled as to why, and I'm happy that they came here, but I'm baffled by the fact that they can't go to the Conservation Commission and have the forum there. I don't know why that isn't allowed. I don't know. Not that we don't appreciate them coming here. They were all very eloquent. It was unbelievable. The only good thing that happened in this all is that the neighbors got to get reacquainted with each other again, and I think that's a good thing. But it's disrespectful that a contractor would come in like a thief in the night and strip the neighborhood of their character, of the not conforming with the surrounding buildings. I don't think I heard any one of these residents and neighbors say that they're against having a resident there. They got to meet the ones down the hill, and I appreciate that. But people have to be accountable to what they're going to do in respect to the surrounding neighbors, and that hasn't been happening here. And we do have motions on the books that say that we don't want builders to come in and build in such a way that we leave the residents subject to flooding. My God, we know how rampant that is all over the city, and I don't certainly want to add another one with this development here. So I am in favor of that motion. I believe that we should go on record in support of the residents here that took time out of their busy schedule to come here and speak. And the strength of numbers, they're well represented here today, and I'm thrilled about that. I'm sorry that they're going through this problem, but if there's a way that we can correct this, Mr. Manager, we should be doing all that we can. I think we should go on record to say we support Councilor Elliott's motion and do whatever we can to help the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Mercia. Before I recognize Councilor Martin, I just want to say that I just want to stress to my colleagues that we just need to be cautious when we're talking about a contractor who's, again, not here. And again, the solicitor just asked me to convey that to my colleagues, that you just need to be careful with some of your comments. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The neighbors said they would do their best to not be redundant, so I'm going to try and do the same thing, although many of the points have been raised. But, a few weeks ago, we had a proposal for property on Bigelow Street, and the complaint there, and the complaint continues to be throughout the city, and one of the neighbors used this term as the infill developments. Now, we were faced with a large number of these a few years ago, and council adopted new zoning restrictions and things, and it seems like as much as we try and stay one step ahead of, poor developments or infill type developments, we're not really one step ahead, we're one step behind sometimes. And I think that's what certainly concerns many of the people who came here tonight. So I think they are not only doing the neighbors a service, but doing us a service and the city a service by pointing this out. But I think it's incumbent on us to not only take a look at the regulations, and it is difficult for many who don't specialize in this type of work. Even those who do find it daunting at times. So I can appreciate the confusion and concern. It is kind of a maze and a mishmash of this board and that board, this permit, that permit. So I think that, you know, the motion is a good one to get a report on what the actual process is for this, as it affects this particular neighborhood. But I think, you know, certainly that would help in the report, a timeline. It appears to me, though, there may have been violations of existing ordinances as well. And, you know, I don't want to say that there are or there aren't, but I think that's certainly something that it's within the council's purview to ask the manager to investigate. And so, you know, I think that should be part of this process as well. So, again, try not to be repetitive of the other comments, but I certainly agree with many of them, and appreciate the work of the neighborhood in taking their time to come and highlight this issue to the council tonight.
Thank you, Council Martin. Councilman Danza.
Yeah, certainly, I mean, some very clear points of contention have been brought up in the presentation that was made. The appropriate either planning board or conservation commission should be able to review it and see if there have been violations. It does seem to me that it seems to be a very large project in the sense that I believe our zoning now has ratios of square footage of living space or home to the open space on the lot. I mean, I remember walking by this area, and it was very steep from the road. I never thought that anybody would build a house there, but apparently someone is attempting to. So I will support the motion in the sense that I would like all the appropriate boards to review everything that's going on this site and make sure that it is within our regulations and ordinances. And there's certainly reason to suspect that something has been violated, but leave it up to the boards to determine if that is so or not. And so I look forward to the city manager conducting the investigation through the appropriate boards and reporting back to us so we understand exactly what's going on with this development.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Hearing none. Oh, Mr. Manager, the chair recognizes.
I'll be very brief. I just I think the motion certainly as presented is worthwhile. I just wanted to assure the city council and assure the residents of the neighborhood that you know, these things are often messy in terms of people trying to do a development, and you know, as I think has already been pointed out by one of the residents, and it's frustrating sometimes, but you know, that people have the constitutionally protected property rights, but there are also regulations within a city as to how development can take place that are legitimate. And I just wanted to assure the council and the residents that there is a process here that has to be followed. I mean, it can be messy at times, but it's one that we do intend to stick to in terms of going through the historic board process and going through the necessary processes with the Inspectional Services Department. And if any of the other boards or commissions need to weigh in on this, or it triggers their receiving, you know, or having some input on this project. But I could certainly, we will document all of that in a report to the council, assuring the residents that there is a process, that if, as was presented tonight in the document that we received, a number of concerns that, you know, that certainly are legitimate questions that need to be looked at as the process unfolds, and all of that will be considered, as they are on every project that takes place in the city, or they should be on every project that takes place in the city. That we do look at to ensure that, you know, that the size of the building, you know, in terms of a ratio to the building lot, meets the code, that the grade is appropriate, that the drainage plans are appropriate. All of that takes place as it goes through the process, but we will certainly document all of that in a report to the council, and certainly make that available to the neighborhood as well.
Councilor Elliott. and
Thank you. I
Councilor
just
Carter.
wanted to follow up on that report, Mr. Manager. I just spoke with Mr. Little. They go back to the Historic Board at the beginning of May. So hopefully we can make that, you'll have that report, and we can make that available. And in terms of, well, I guess we'll look at the report. How do they follow up on some of those issues?
Well, I think the report is not intended to determine the buildability of the project as proposed, as much as it is to explain that who does what. Okay. So, if there are questions before the historic board, what are the questions that are appropriately before the historic board? What would be the conceivable next steps that the development would need to go through? I don't think there are any other boards or commissions. Well, I'm going to reserve judgment on that, and
Okay.
that's what we need to figure out. Obviously, what should happen, or what could happen, in leaving this one aside, leaving this particular project aside, but if someone wants to build a house on a lot, they go in, they seek a building permit, and at that point, the building commissioner or the inspectional services department will instruct the people that they're missing something, or they need to go to conservation, or they don't meet the necessary requirements and they have to get a variance from the Board of Appeals, or maybe something that triggers some other, maybe it's the historic board. They have to go through all of that, and then all those plans have to be reviewed by the plan review people to make sure that the grades are appropriate. All of those things, just because someone comes, and I know everyone understands this, just because someone comes forward with a request to build a building, no one's issued a permit. They shouldn't be issued a permit unless they meet the requirements of the city's regulations, the city's ordinances, and state law. And so but all of those steps take place a little bit down the road from here. But that is all going to be done, and we'll document all of that in the report.
I think that'll be helpful, because I think it does raise so many issues, and while there is a process and it should be done, what the neighbors and the residents want to prevent is that all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted before a building permit is issued, before there's construction equipment on the site, and then realize maybe and just maybe there's a mistake, and it's too late. So that report will be helpful, and so thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The sign at the site is extremely deceiving. And the council years ago brought this forward to let everyone know exactly what was going to be built. And the sign at the site, Mr. Manager, indicates they're going to build a structure there of 2,965 square feet, when the actual size of the structure is going to be 850 square feet more. That's deceiving. That's deceiving the people in that neighborhood. And that should be addressed immediately. You can't put up a sign indicating you're going to build a structure with so many square feet and actually build a different structure. That's deceiving to this council and to these people.
Thank you. Any further discussions, comments? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It's a vote. On behalf of my colleagues, thank you all for bringing this to our attention, and thank you for being here this evening. Thank you. Moving on with the agenda, public hearing time. We have a loan order to borrow $21 million to make energy efficiency improvements. In City Council loan order, energy improvement bonds to borrow $21 million to pay costs of making energy efficiency improvements to various city buildings as called for in the city's energy services and energy savings guarantee agreements with Amoresco Incorporated, and for the payment of any other costs incidental and related thereto. Before I open the public hearing, I will ask the city manager if he wants to say a few words on this loan order.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a follow-up to a presentation that you received back in, I believe, December, or the City Council received back in December. This is the performance contract that we've been talking so much about for a while now. Essentially, this will enable the city to move forward with energy improvements at a number of our facilities across the city that will, in the long run, well, even in the short run, save us money in terms of our energy usage. The way that this works is that there have been roughly $21 million worth of work that's been identified through an audit that was done by Amoresco, and which was selected in a competitive bid process. Their work has been reviewed by our staff at DPW, as well as the purchasing department and our finance people. And we've selected the projects that are going to save money for the city. The savings will in itself pay for the loan order. So there'll be no money that comes from the city to pay this debt service. In fact, the debt service will be paid by the savings, and the city will reap improved buildings as well as immediate cost savings as well. So that's a guarantee that those savings will take place and that will pay for that debt service. That is it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to the city manager. I asked for a report as to what bonds were retired. We don't know. I don't recall getting that. Are we retiring any debt?
Well, we are retiring
bonds?
debt this. We are retiring debt this year, but this does not. This does not come out of that debt. This debt service does not come out of the city budget. This debt service will be paid by the savings from the energy improvements.
Thank you. The chair would like to open up the public hearing for all those wishing to speak in favor of the loan order. In favor of the loan order. Name and address, please.
Mr. Mayor, members of the Lowell City Council, Mr. Manager, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. Wish to be recorded in favor of this. This is a program that will benefit the city in the long run, and the taxpayers will see the benefits. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council?
Move approval.
Move approval by Council Broderick, second by Council Elliott. Council Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to vote for this because it's a way of saving money. And personally, I'm always looking to save money like my colleagues are. But I'm going to ask this question one more time, Mr. Manager, and I asked it before this went to a public hearing a month or so ago. We are not going to replace the windows in City Hall? And tell me why.
We're not going to replace the windows in City Hall through this loan order. We're exploring some other ways of replacing the windows. The reason these windows will not be done through this is the payback is too great. In other words, keep in mind that the payback, the energy savings payback, has to be such that it can pay for itself, and within the time period of the loan order. And these windows do not fall into that category.
Mr. Manager, I don't want to sound facetious, but I have to say this. In the middle of January and February, I watched a reporter from the Lowell Sun and many of my colleagues with coats and hats on, and you could say it was the fault of the boiler, but maybe all the heat was going out the windows. And, you know, if you have another way of replacing the windows, I'm willing to listen to it, but we're going to spend $21 million, and we're not replacing one window in this building. That's
correct. Right. If I may, though, if Mr. Moses would like to.
Yeah, I would like to acknowledge, number one, that there is no question that those windows are leaking energy. There is no question. You know it. The sun knows it. Everybody in this room can feel it. The problem is the cost of those windows, because they're so large and so intricate, means that the savings by replacing them will not pay for the cost over the time period that we need. So you are absolutely correct. Those are leaking energy.
Council Elliott, then Council Broderick, then Council Martin.
Mr. Manager, I have concerns with giving a $21 million loan order, and maybe my question more is logistically, how is this going to work? Who is physically going to be doing the work? We contracted with Amoresco, and the city's taking out $21 million to pay for these improvements. Is it 21 million, or maybe you can tell me, what is the process for us doing that? Giving $21 million to this private company to make the improvements?
Okay, we have the ability to borrow up to $21 million. Amoresco is essentially the general contractor in all of this. And by the way, this process is outlined in general legislation by the Commonwealth to do specifically what we're intending here. They will put out to bid each of the individual components and the projects, open book pricing, meaning that we will be able to see all the bids and approve any transaction that takes place. As the construction begins, like any other construction loan, we will provide the funding for the work. At some point when the work is completed, those funds that were borrowed are bonded. And at that point, our utility bills start to decline, and those savings actually pay the debt service and the bond, so the city does not come out of pocket. At that time, Amoresco puts up a financial guarantee, and if the savings are not sufficient to pay those bonds or a municipal lease, if we go that route, they will write us a check to cover the difference.
When does that payback begin?
The payback begins as soon as each component becomes operational. For example, and it may vary on the project. If you replace a boiler, a new efficient boiler is not going to begin to pay itself back until it's up and running, it's operational, and it's heating season. If you're replacing lights, the first light you put in, as long as you're in the room using it, begins to pay off right there. So it depends on the project, the specific project we're talking about.
Okay, and I don't want to sound pessimistic, but sometimes when things sound so good to be true, sometimes they're not. And so that's just my general concern. I'm not going to be around by the time these bonds come through. Who is going to be tracking the savings, and how is that going to take place? So I'm a little skeptical when I say, guess what, the saving, we should be saving, and I do believe it, but how are we going to track it, and how are we going to reassure taxpayers that it's guaranteed? When someone says guarantee, I think everybody's antennas go up. So how do they fulfill that guarantee, and who's going to track it?
There are a number of controls in place. First of all, on an ongoing basis, we review all the bonds that we have payable. Typically, that review is fairly extensive in water and sewer bonds, but we do that regardless. So I will be looking at this. The treasurer will be looking at this on an ongoing basis. We have to do annual reporting, but there's a second level of control here. the funding of the project, we had anticipated including an energy manager to represent the city as sort of a clerk of the works during the construction phase. We've actually now identified a second source of funds, grant funding, so the city doesn't come out of pocket. But he's actually going to be looking out from the construction standpoint. Is everything going in as required? Certainly, Amoresco has a financial interest in making sure it's properly installed and operational for 20 years because their guarantee is on the hook. So if it's improperly installed, it is ineffective, they're on the hook. So they are going to be doing everything in their power to make sure it is done properly.
So when we contract, and I'm looking down the line, Amoresco presumably won't go out of business, but what are the city's protection for payback purposes? Amoresco goes out of business, maybe somebody, it's a hypothetical, but you have to think, this is a long-term commitment to realize the savings.
Perhaps.
Oh, maybe they're here.
They're here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilman. My name is Hal Meyer, and I'm manager for business development for Amoresco for New England. I'd like to introduce my associate, Joe DeManch. He's Executive Vice President for Engineering and Construction with our company. He'll be responsible for the teams that implement these projects. As Mr. Moses and Mr. Lynch have represented, Amoresco has done an extensive audit of all the city and school facilities for about the past close to a year probably now, gone through all the basements and all the buildings and also all the paperwork and all the bills and that kind of thing. Amoresco is basically developers and general contractors for energy efficiency improvements. We do this to the tune of about $500 million worth of construction work a year, much of it right here in Massachusetts. We're a Massachusetts-based corporation headquartered in Framingham. This is not a new concept. This is being done for probably over 20 years now. As Mr. Moses had mentioned also, it's enabled under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 25A to be specific, unlike other construction projects that normally happen under Chapter 149. Having said that, it's a design-build process, unlike a plan and spec and design a board kind of process and so forth. This process here, we were competitively procured. We will now subcontract to ideally local subcontractors. We have a whole long list of Lowell suppliers and contractors of all sorts that we would seek to first get involved, and then through the surrounding local area. Amoresco currently is also engaged with the city with a solar installation. We're in the process now of installing solar on 4 buildings, as well as the Lowell Memorial Auditorium. And that's also through a guaranteed savings contract. We're going to be selling the city of Lowell electricity at a reduced rate from what National Grid is providing, again, guaranteed for 20 years. Currently, it'll start at under 7 cents a kilowatt hour, and the city on out of the buildings right now is paying National Grid about twice that. So there's substantial savings there, and also certainly doing the right thing by the environment in terms of renewable energy. To the question now about our guarantee, from doing these amount of projects, we currently have on the books also close to $500 million worth of guaranteed savings that are done with municipalities across the country and in Canada, as well as the federal government and public housing authorities. Amoresco completed the Lowell Public Housing Authority project, $11 million project, and it's in repayment currently, and Amoresco is guaranteeing the savings. And the way we do that is we basically work with the city on an ongoing basis by monitoring the buildings. We'll be installing computerized energy management systems throughout all the buildings, and we have an operations center in Framingham that will be monitoring that on a continuous basis. We also have access through the city and also directly through the utility companies, all your utility bills that we'll be comparing on a quarterly basis. And Then we also are providing on-site inspectional services to come through the buildings once a year, not all at once a year, but annually. All the systems will be inspected to be sure that they're running properly. Amoresco is not operating these improvements, nor are we maintaining these improvements. The city's going to be doing that in the same fashion they've been doing that. However, we'll just verify that the maintenance is happening the right way and the operations is happening the right way, provide ongoing training as needed to faculty, teachers, students, of course, city and school maintenance personnel, working very closely with Brian Curley and Dave Blazon's offices and T.J. McCarthy on the DPW side to make sure that all the technical improvements aren't anything out of popular science, if you will. These are all tried and true improvements. We're not installing anything super fancy here. It's just really a way to not only save energy but also upgrade the buildings. We will be installing a new boiler plant down here, disconnecting it from the central plant that also serves the Civic Center and the library, so it will save a lot of money. And while the windows have about an 800-year payback, the boilers have substantially less, and they will improve the comfort dramatically in here. We will be installing computerized energy management controls in this building as well, which will also improve the comfort and save energy. So our mission in life is to save energy, but use that energy savings to reinvest into the building infrastructure. And it's not a cure-all. I mean, there's other things the city needs to do. This is just one piece of the pie. And it does sound too good to be true, and that's why we're in a very good business and a recession-proof business, and we enjoy it very much.
Okay. Thank you. That helps. That helps a lot. So we'll see the savings from the reduction in energy costs to pay down the debt service. And you get a fee, you get a percent naturally, and it's just a question: is it an annual? Is it percentage based on improvements, or how does that work?
It's a fee that's earned during the installation process. So, for the work that we do, developing the program of measures that will save energy, for the work we do, doing the engineering design of those projects, bidding that out, managing the subcontract labor that we hire through that competitive bid process in the buildings. All of that we earn a fee on.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you. You've answered my question. You touched on one point earlier, Mr. Moses, that this will require an energy manager, correct, to continue to monitor. How is that going to be paid for? You mentioned grants, but this is a 20-year process.
Mr. Bakey?
The energy manager will be paid for out of the city's federal energy efficiency and conservation block grant funds. It's a portion of the funding. It was actually in the funding plan that was approved by the council last June, included funding for this particular position.
How many years? That's not a...
It's a 3-year grant.
It's a 3-year entitled, 3-year grant. Okay.
And it will align fairly closely with the construction period for this work. So we'll have somebody in place throughout the entire construction of this contract.
Okay.
I believe Mr. Vaughn, our purchasing director, has some comments on that too.
Councilor, the last 17 years are already funded in that $21 million loan order. We had built that into the overall savings program to have an energy manager on site, not working for Amoresco, but funded out of this bond order that you're doing now.
Okay, thank you. I have some, there are some legitimate concerns with this. Because I did read through a report from the Inspector General. It's a 13-page report specifically, and it's an advisory on the of energy management and conservation services. So to some degree, it's a little bit of uncharted territory. I did see Amoresco's website. They do have many communities in Massachusetts, but I just wanted to make sure that all my questions are concerned.
And if I may, okay. Oh, on the Inspector General's report, yeah, we're familiar with that report, and I think, Council, you're right. These are legitimate questions that need to be looked at and asked, and but we're familiar with the Inspector General's report, and we've abided by the recommendations.
Yeah, I'm not so
I
sure.
was pleased that you went out with 25A, because that's kind of important in this report.
Right. Basically, Chapter 25A is called Energy Management Services. It really, for years, has been used just for energy performance contracting services. There's another program out there that is being widely spread amongst municipalities across the country, and that's a form of energy performance contract that's not equipment renovation based, but operational based. So there's companies out there that will work with cities and towns, school districts in large part, to guarantee a level of savings by energy education and energy training, things along those lines. And my understanding of it was there was no procurement methodology for that. It didn't come under 149, it didn't come under 30B. And so these energy education services were being procured directly by cities and towns through a non-competitive, on a non-competitive basis. The DOER, Department of Energy Resources, had subsequently folded them into being procured under Chapter 25A, for better or for worse. So it's a completely different business. It has nothing to do with renovating facilities and guaranteeing the savings based on new equipment. The way the concept, my understanding is how it works, is that they're guaranteeing savings based on operational changes. So what happens there, if personnel that are trained either leave the school district or the city or what have you, those savings could at that point diminish. So it's and I believe that's what, if I know the report you're reading, I believe it's reflecting towards that aspect and not energy performance contracting, if you will, just to clear that up. Thank you.
Thank you. All set, Council Elliott? Thank you. Council Broderick?
Thank you. I'm going to support the vote, or vote positive. But through you, Mr. Mayor, to the manager, if we could get regular reports as to the status and what's I mean, they did come in and give an hour or two presentation back in, I think it was whatever, November, December, in terms of the process. I think that they're also going to be out getting grant monies and trying, I think, we were moving this along as quickly as possible to be hopefully one of the leaders in the area, to be able to get some of this grant money and secure some additional assistance in making our improvements. But if we could get maybe whether it be quarterly or semi-annually, whatever makes sense, depending on the speed with which we move forward, reports in terms of which properties or what improvements we're bidding, and the results, and tracking the jobs as well as they move forward. In addition, obviously, we'll get the reports on the financial savings and how the bond's being paid and so on. But you know, I do like the concept that the savings is going to also include the personnel that we need to be able to help the city manage this whole project. And you know, I'm going to support it. Thank you.
Council Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I get the concept. I like the concept, but my questions are, I think, similar to Councilor Elliott's in the financial arrangement here. So I've got a few questions about that, if I could. So I don't know, because $21 million is a lot of money, and so is this? I anticipate we're going to do this over a period of time, but how long is it going to take to draw that down? Is it?
Probably about 2 years to draw it down. We'll draw the money as we need it. The bulk of the work is actually done during construction season in the summers. Most importantly, virtually all the school work is done in the summers because the kids can't be around in the schools.
Right. So it's performance-based. So I imagine, Amoresco's come in, they've done kind of a baseline study, so we know we use, if we're going to do lighting improvements in the JFK Civic Center, there's a baseline study that probably says we use X kilowatt hours for lighting, and then now with this new improvements, we're going to use X less kilowatt hours. I mean, how is it measured?
Actually, Amoresco has taken some time now to go through all of our utility bills for the last 2 years.
Right.
They've determined baseline usage and adjusted for weather factors and other things. They're taking their knowledge of the industry and in the inventory that they've done. They've taken lights, for example, taken a look at the light fixtures that are in place in all our buildings, taken a look at the technology that's available at this point, priced it out based on recent projects, determined that each unit of lighting in a office will reduce energy consumption by X amount, cranked it through their model and determined that the payback in years, and then they have quite a comprehensive computer model that layers in all of these individual projects, some that have quite rapid paybacks, pay for other projects that maybe don't have quite as long of or quite as short as a payback. But it's all modeled together. So it's based on an extensive energy audit that's already been performed and their knowledge of the marketplace, the technologies out there, and the energy efficiencies that each of those technologies will offer to a commercial a client like us.
All right. So, and it's performance-based, so they guarantee there'll be X amount less consumption of energy.
That's correct.
But I assume they can't guarantee the prices.
No, and the price fluctuations are excluded from the formula. So there's certain assumptions about escalation of prices.
Right.
If they don't escalate as much, we're going to actually save dollars. And if
But I assume the reason there is even if we were at the higher, there's still savings even at higher pricing levels, right? It might be more money, more dollars out of pocket, yet still it would have been X amount more.
That's correct.
So based on all that modeling, and so we're going to now use less energy. That's the contract. That's what they're under contract to do. And they, you said guarantee that. So what happens when, these light controls don't, if we don't realize the savings we anticipated by a factor of, say, 10%, or 5, if it's 2% or 0.5%. So what if it's less than guaranteed? What happens?
They actually write us a check.
Okay. And so is that a secured obligation, letter of credit? Is there anything that backs that up? I think that's one of the questions.
Mr. Vaughn?
Hi again. The lawyers from Amoresco and our city lawyers haven't yet finalized the final contractual language, but there'll be the language in there that gives the city the protection to get that yearly payment if, in fact, Amoresco has made a mistake in their calculations and do have to write us a check. Though, as of today, I don't believe you've written a check to anybody on any of your projects. Is that correct?
Okay. I mean, it's, but I think, the council's supportive of this project, as am I, but I think we just want to understand how it's going to work. So, so that, I think, covers my concern. So I appreciate your patience and the folks being here from Amoresco. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Caulfield? And Council Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The past council voted to bring in Amoresco in 2009 to do an energy efficient study. Is that so, Mr. Manager?
That's correct.
Should there had been a bid put out for that?
There was a bid for that.
There was a bid put out, and Amoresco was the low
That's correct.
bidder? Oh, okay. That's what I want to clarify. Because if there wasn't, whoever did the energy is automatically guaranteed this contract.
No, the bid was for the entire service.
Right, for $21 million.
Well, not for 21 million, but for the work of doing the audit and doing the
So
follow-up.
Amoresco was the...
Yes, they were.
Was the low bidder, and you suggested and you agreed that they should be the one to do the study and do the work.
That's correct.
May I ask, if there's going to be a contract with Amoresco, Mr. Mayor, and the verbiage of that shouldn't that be before us tonight? I mean, you
Defer
say,
to the solicitor?
you're telling us that they're going to write us a check. I mean, I don't see nothing.
The issue before you tonight is the loan order. The procurement is not done by the council. The procurement is done by the manager. So that's why that's not before you. What's before you is the loan order to borrow the money.
When are we going to see this verbiage, the contract, that they're going to write us a check if they don't fulfill the obligation? Who's that?
Well, we'll be happy to get that to you once it's.
I think it's very important.
Right.
No, I mean,
let me state that is I think several people have pointed out. This is a program. This is a program, a process, and Councilor Elliott raised some good questions regarding other performance contracting measures that have been used in other communities. But this is a proven track record throughout the Commonwealth and throughout the country. And it's also been pointed out. This isn't a new idea. It was mentioned that it goes back 20 years. I actually remember this going back 30 years, back in the energy crisis in 1980 when I was doing work at the Massachusetts Housing Finance Agency where they were using this process. And it is a very successful concept that this company, which is our energy experts, come in, they do the necessary work, they set up the necessary schedule of work that's going to be done, and then guarantee financially that they will produce savings.
they're the general contractor.
Right, that's correct. Right. And there's a number of communities, a number of state agencies. I know the Massachusetts, the MBTA has used this successfully. The town of Belmont has used it successfully. A number of other communities, I think Councilor Elliott mentioned that he'd gone on their website and seen the variety of communities that have done this and saved money. And the state recognizes this, and this is why they put the legislation in place.
Okay.
So it's similar, if you will, Councilor, to, and I know you did quite a bit of legwork tracking this down on the street lighting project. It seems too good to be true, but in fact, this is set up in a way that the community saves money, Amoresco makes money, and it's a win-win all around. They wouldn't be in the business if they weren't making a profit, but they do this in a way in delivering services that in the end benefit the communities.
The only reason I brought that forward, and I think my colleagues all feel the same, they will write a check out for us if they don't. I like to see it in front of me. And I think that's the way we do business normally. And I just have one more question for one of the gentlemen from Amoresco. You are very familiar with the Riley School?
Somewhat familiar, yes.
The Riley School?
Yes.
And we're going to replace some of the windows in the Riley School. What windows?
What windows specifically?
Yeah. I want to know if you're going to replace the plexiglass windows that are porous and letting in the cold.
Sure. Yeah, basically, we have a few buildings that we're installing windows on. The exact scope of work for the Riley School, I can't comment on, Counselor. It hasn't been designed yet. We basically have a concept design, but it's mine. I look back in the audit document to see how many windows are being replaced, and then get that information to you.
Well, in your report, it said at the Riley School you're going to replace windows.
Mm-hmm.
So I take it that you're going to replace those windows that are porous and need to be replaced. It's
right. That's correct, sir.
That is correct, Councilor.
Okay, I'm taking your word for it.
Those are the ones that need to be replaced. And again, if these windows were that size and that type, that are sort of off the shelf, they'd be done. But they don't make windows like this anymore.
Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to just follow up on Councilor Broderick's suggestion. I don't know, maybe we can make it into the form of a motion, and I would support this contingent upon the fact that I'd like to see where we're going in a report, or a summary every quarter or whatever. Maybe, I don't know if that's too early, but, because I know that you're just, getting here with the designs and the plans and things, but I'd like to have a report, and if that's a motion, I don't know.
Yeah,
if
make
we
it
can-
as a form, in the form
Okay,
of a
and I'll
motion. Well,
second it.
suspend the rules, I think.
Suspend the rules by Counselor Broderick, seconded by Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
All those in
Ju-
favor of suspension of the rules to talk about this motion?
Yes.
Signify by saying aye. Motion by Counselor Broderick, seconded by Counselor Mercia to, I'm sorry, Mr. Manager?
I'm fully supportive of a report.
Yes.
That's absolute. The work is going to start this summer. We'll get you a report of the work that's going to take, we can do that probably in the next
Yeah, that'd be good.
couple months, month and a half, to tell you the work that's taking place, tell you give you a report in the fall as to, what work did occur. Then I would think doing it on a semi-annual basis.
Sure, we'd like to know that.
The only request I would make is that you not make the loan order contingent upon this.
Oh, all right.
To
but
have
I
that
do-
be a separate,
Okay,
we
well,
can't
I
have a
certainly
loan order
do.
contingent.
I'm looking forward to getting an idea
Absolutely.
as to where they're going, what have they already accomplished in that idea, so thanks.
Absolutely.
All right, all those in favor of the motion as presented signify by saying aye. Opposed is to vote. Any other comments? Counselor Murphy, then Counselor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also point out that the performance that's produced by this energy contract is a critical part of the Green Communities legislation, so that there will be constant follow-up on, are we meeting our energy reduction required under that legislation. So there will be tracking not only in the near term, but also the midterm, to make sure that we are hitting those goals. But I think that this project in general makes very good fiscal sense, that it makes good environmental sense, and I certainly support it.
Thank you.
Thank
Counselor Murphy. Counselor Elliott.
Mayor, I do have a couple more questions, I'm sorry, but we're talking about $21 million here. So could I have the gentleman from Amoresco up just one more time? And this is on the reporting requirements, kind of going back to my question and Council Martin's question on the payback. Do you provide reports to other communities that you've contracted with? Will you provide a report, say, for instance, you replace the windows at the Riley School? Is it a Hertz rating that you're bringing down, or and do you show the payback per project? Meaning,
right.
Okay, we've spent $50,000 for a new boiler. The payback is over X amount of years, but this is what you're going to realize in savings this year, next year, taking into consideration the cost of energy as well.
Absolutely. So we'll be monitoring the buildings continuously. We'll be collecting utility data and providing on-site inspection reports. Annually, we'll provide a savings report showing exactly every measure, in every building and every between the city buildings and the school buildings. There's a whole matrix of 22 measures. Some of them apply to all buildings, some apply to only one building. Each one will be shown in what savings there are, the consumption savings. And again, we don't guarantee what utility is going to charge you for gas and electric, but we multiply it at the current rate. And this happens each and every year. Then you sort of roll it all up, and you add it up to the, I believe it's a little bit over $1 million worth a year of savings that the city's going to be realizing.
So you'd be providing those reports against this baseline data that you currently have for the term of the note?
Yeah, we did. That's the first step in the energy audit process. We developed a very detailed baseline analysis so we could figure out how big the pie was and what we could draw from it. And we, as Tom mentioned, compared that with 30-year historical averages, adjusted it for weather and occupancy. And billing days and that kind of thing. So it's very, very complex, very detailed models, a whole big binder filled with just baseline data.
Because it'll be important as we move forward. We're just going to see, line items in the budget as to this is what the cost is. What would be helpful moving forward, even with, performance budgeting, is say this is what the cost would have been. This is what we saved, for the term of the note. How long is the note, Mr. Moses? After the 2 years, after we've obligated, is 20 years?
20 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would my colleagues mind if I commented from the chair, just before we take a vote. Picking up on a point that Council Martin made earlier about the guarantee. Again, I support the loan order. I support the overall intent of the plan going forward with the Amoresco, but how do we make sure that that guarantee is ironclad? That regardless of what happens to Amoresco, that guarantee stays in place. I know it's 20 years, but how do we know that that guarantee is going to stay in place? Is it going to be backed up with a letter of credit, or be backed up with, what will it be backed up with, I guess is my question.
That financial document that will back it up will be negotiated within the contract. It's hard for me to say because the other side to negotiate that contract is right there, but we'll probably look for a third-party guarantee in terms of bank or insurance company, but as you well know, those institutions go in and out of business as well.
Right, well, I spent 2 hours the other night watching a PBS special on Enron, with all due respect to Amoresco. Again, I don't want to be sitting here 5 or 7 years from now, and all of a sudden the taxpayer is paying this loan order. So, in my opinion, there's got to be a way that we can make sure that whether or not it's a third-party insurance company, there's certainly AAA insurance companies out there that have been around for hundreds of years to back up this. And I know that manager doesn't want to negotiate this in public, but at the same time, we're being asked to vote on a $21 million loan order that we're being told is going to be guaranteed. I just want to make sure that it's going to be guaranteed.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vaughn wants to speak on this, so I'll let him speak first.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. The one thing is, once the construction phase is finished, you'll actually know if the guarantee's been met, because the baseline then would be established. The last 18 years would almost be like a maintenance thing of keeping that same energy efficiency going and maintained by the city. But after all the items are in the construction and finished, we'll know then if it's being maintained correctly. Al?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Just one comment with regards to that. Again, this energy performance contracting is equipment-based, and it's not operational-based, as the Inspector General's other memorandum had stated. What Mike was saying, and Mike had successfully done a few performance contracts with the MBTA that have now been in operation for at least 5 or more years at this point. The systems that we put in will be commissioned. The city will be trained on how to operate them, and then it's up to the city to maintain and operate them in a fashion in accordance with the manufacturer and our directions, if you will. What Mike was saying, that if the savings aren't there after the first year of operation, they'll never, they won't be there. I mean, then we miscalculated. In other words, if we put in new light bulbs in here and the savings didn't happen right away, or at least after the first year of monitoring, then it's never going to happen, because it's just math kind of a thing. Am I making that clear? So basically, excuse me? Yeah, so basically, I understand your concerns 100%. And who knows who's going to go out of business at any given time. I mean, I guess Enron wasn't forecast to go out of business either. Joe, you want to say something?
Well, we're on the hook for this. And again, the majority of this is not rocket science. The vast majority of the savings you will see will be taking a fluorescent lamp that's rated for 45 watts and replacing it with a fluorescent lamp that is rated for 32 watts. And we will do that construction, and we will come in and measure that on a per fixture basis. And once that's been measured, in fact, it's almost a waste of money to measure it, because the companies that manufacture those lamps measure them in the factory, and that's how they come up with the rating. But we will do that once that lamp is in there, and we've shown that in the first year and the second year. You can rely on those savings to occur for the remaining 18 years, so long as you continue to use that same energy efficient lamp when they're replaced. With a boiler, we will come in after the efficiency change in the first few years will will indicate to you the potential for that new high-efficiency boiler to save over the lower efficiency boiler. If it doesn't, and we see a shortfall, we will be back in there correcting that shortfall in the first or second year, not in the 14th year, because we've suffered 12 years of writing you checks for the shortfall by that point in time. So part of what comes with the guarantee is our close observation in the very early years and in the later years, but for us the risk is high in the earlier years too. That's when we want to correct the problem, if there is a problem. And again, these technologies have been available for 30 years. They get incrementally better and better and better. They're not, there's nothing cutting edge about them. They're very ordinary technologies, lighting fixtures, building control systems, high efficiency boilers. We use these all the time, and the reason that you don't have them is that the capital has not always been available to invest in something that simply reduces an operating cost like energy.
Thank you. Councilor Dakota has not been heard.
Thank you very much for that information. I'm actually in support of the concept, but my concern is once the baseline is met and Amoresco is no longer involved, then our employees become responsible. So are we going, or are we in the process of developing training, maintenance plans from?
I think that, Councilor, I think that's an excellent question. That's under the Amoresco contract as well. It's paid out of this, that they will do the necessary training. And that's why they come back each year to make sure that we're in fact doing it the way we're supposed to. But I think that's, you're right, that's where ultimately we can make the improvements. But if we go back to putting in the old bulbs, or if we go back to not maintaining the boilers the proper way, that's where we'll run into some issues.
Thank you. Councilor Martin.
Thanks. I guess this issue of the guarantees, I don't want the whole thing to get hung up on this, but the council wants to know. So, you know, what I'm hearing by, I think, lack of an answer is what we're going to have is a contract right to pursue Amoresco. That's not going to necessarily be backed up by anything. But according to their history, they can't miss. They've never missed in other communities. So I guess, is that typical of your contracts? I mean, what's the typical, you know, you guarantee you'll fix it or achieve the savings, you go back, but that's just an unsecured contractual obligation. Is that what it is? I mean, let's just not hide about it. Let's just tell us what it is.
Sure. Well, for starters, Councilor, the contract that is being negotiated currently is a contract that was provided to us by the city. So we're basically, so the verbiage was already in there from the city. It wasn't our verbiage that we put in there. And I'm sure that the city manager will share that with you when the solicitor's office is through the contract. There was a mechanism out there called energy efficiency insurance. Unfortunately, that insurance or that bonding is no longer available, commercially available. So there, for a short time, because a lot of folks had similar concerns to yours, municipalities were buying that insurance, and we were including the cost in our contracts for that insurance. That was very short-lived, and that went away when the sort of secondary insurance marketplace fell apart earlier in this decade. But right now, there is basically that's, I believe, in large part, maybe why the city chose Amoresco to do this contract was our financial wherewithal and our success with guaranteeing savings historically.
No, fair enough. So we're just trying to find out what it is. I mean, is that what typical in other communities? Is that what your contracts provide?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Anybody else? Are we ready to
vote? Roll
more
call.
Comments, questions? Roll call on the loan order.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Caulfield.
It seems the longer this conversation goes on, the more confusing it is getting. And Mr. Mayor, I agree with you 100%, and I think Councilor Martin is on the same edge as I am. Mr. Manager, once the vote is taken on this loan order, does that constitute a contract with Amoresco?
No.
It doesn't. Once we take the vote on the loan order, are you going to bring a contract before us to vote on?
I don't believe that's appropriate.
What's unusual here is that the actual funding, the appropriation source, is one that is coming for the contract, is one that comes before the council.
But
Typically.
I think, I'm hearing from my colleagues, there's a big question mark. How are we guaranteed that they're going to repay some sort of money with some sort of check to the city? And the mayor's brought that up, and I think Council Martin is on that edge, as Council Elliott, and I am too. I want to save money, but I want to see something in front of me in writing that I can sink my teeth into. And I don't see that.
Right.
I'm sorry, Council Martin.
Could I just, one, I know I've spoken twice already, but on this issue of the guarantee, I mean, we're dealing with a very sizable company, a long track record here in the industry. You know, you hear the word guarantee, you want to know what's backing it up. That's what lawyers do. That's what bankers do. But I think, you know, I'm supportive of this concept. I think, you know, there's a lot of work gone into this, and I'm prepared to vote for this tonight. And I think I would leave it in the discretion of the manager in negotiating this contract, whether to insist on some sort of financial performance, because the cost of that is ultimately going to raise the cost, I think, of the contract. We just heard them say, you know, when there was insurance available, sure, we'll give you an insurance policy, but the price goes up. And I think that's a balance that needs to be made. And I think, you know, the manager and the solicitor in the course of their negotiations are capable of saying whether that extra price is worth it or not, or whether they're confident enough with the other provisions of the contract. So I know I'm the one who's been harping on this, and I wanted to understand, and now I do, but I do think this is a worthwhile program that I'm willing to support, and I would suggest we leave it to the negotiation process, what level of financial guarantee is appropriate given the trade-off in cost.
Councilman Donza.
Just a quick question. Would it be accurate to say that if we approve this loan order, we're not actually going to draw on it until you've worked out these contracts, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may, just keep in mind that I don't think there's any doubt that we're going to save money through this contract, leaving aside everything else, that in the end, we will have buildings. You look at our capital budget, or our capital plan, and all of the items that are listed there in terms of the buildings that we have, the roof work, the window work, the boilers. This will allow us to move forward with this and do these with savings that we're going to realize through the energy improvements. I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, Councilor Caulfield mentioned these windows here. Well, these would be great to be. The payback isn't there to do those. Otherwise, it would be great to come in here and say that we're going to include those. Everything that's in this project has been done in a way that maximizes the payback to pay for the debt. And I think the fact that we didn't include these is evidence of that, because it certainly would be very politically popular to say that we're going to do that. You know, at the end of the day, this is a wise investment, whether Amoresco's in the room or not. It's a wise investment to fix our buildings to make them more energy efficient, and that's the bottom line.
Council Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I in part was going to mention some of what the managers has just mentioned. I think there's two separate issues here. One is the fact that we need to do these improvements. And if we don't move forward with Amoresco, we're still going to need to do these improvements. Councilor Caulfield mentioned the Riley School. We put a Band-Aid on it 2 years ago, maybe, or a year or two ago. It's in desperate need of some attention, let's put it mildly. And go off the list of other suggested improvements or scheduled improvements. These are improvements we have to do. The city has delayed this for 10, 20, 30 years on some or more, and we have to do it. So this is, in my opinion, the best mechanism we have to move forward, make these improvements in our own buildings, do it in an energy efficient and responsible way, and with a guarantee that it's not going to cost us any money out of pocket. Now, we've all seen what's happened, okay? If we look at a dollar bill in our pocket, it's in God we trust. You know, I don't know how we can lock this down so that we will never, ever have to consider a possibility where this could cost the city money. But I would hope that we can leave, after some explanation here, that we should know in 2 or 3 years. I think there's a much better chance for the manager and the solicitor to come up with some type of contract or proposal that's going to protect the city in a shorter period, as short a period as 2 or 3 years than 18 years. You know, as I think we probably all were looking at it saying, wow, 18 years from now, you know, who knows who's going to be where. And things happen, and what we just saw in the financial markets and the insurance business, you know, the devastation and the uncertainty, that we're probably all going to be very careful, which we should be. This is the taxpayers' money. This is what we're here for. And but I think that what we're looking at are some improvements that we need to do. We have to do these improvements. We're looking at paying, you know, having this completed in the next couple of years, the bond payments hitting, and we should know shortly if we're going to be in a partnership or litigation with Ameresco, and I'm assuming they're still in business. They've been doing this for some time, that they know what they're doing based upon their track record, and that this should go well. But in the event that it doesn't, we should know sooner rather than later, and you know, I think we have to leave it up to the manager and the solicitor to protect us in those circumstances. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just briefly, I don't have enough information before me. Does the work have to be done? Yes. But I don't have enough information before me tonight, and I'm just going to have to say no. It's okay.
Anybody else? We ready? Councilor Elliott.
I know this is my third time, and I'm sorry, and I will be brief. It does sound too good. I think the point is we do have to move forward on these improvements. They need to be done rather than just piecemeal. The concern is I think like the mayor said, the concern is we're not going to be here. Taxpayers are still going to have to foot the bill. What is the guarantee? I suppose Ameresco could give us a guarantee anyway, in some form, whether it's an increased cost or not, and they could go out of business. And then who are we chasing? That was my concern right at the outset. We are still on the hook for these bonds. And I know you're concerned with it as well, Mr. Manager, and I can understand Councilor Caulfield's concern. What is the contract going to say? Why isn't it before us first? Well, if this doesn't pass, then there's no need for a contract. So it's kind of a catch-22. Doesn't anything over a 3-year contract have to come before the council, or is there a provision in 30B relative to services?
Do you want to speak to that?
Sure. There is, although the energy performance would not fall under 30B, and that's where the requirement comes from. And as far as the appropriation, we couldn't enter into any sort of contract without first having the appropriation in place. And so that's why I was just beginning to explain in regards to Councilor Caulfield's points, which were good, that's the reason that that has to be in place first.
And if I may, just perhaps in sort of a closing comment, if you will, although I'm not sure if this will close it completely, but we could have come in here tonight and left Ameresco out of the room completely and said, you know, we've put our people together and we've determined that the city could save substantial sums of money if we were to make these improvements. And we could make a very valid argument of why that should happen. I don't think there's any doubt that new windows at the Riley, a new boiler in this building, changing the light bulbs, putting in the technology that shuts lights off when we leave rooms, putting more energy controls on our radiators, and putting solar down at the auditorium, and I know they were very excited by that. Doing all of those things. And we could come in here and we could make the case to you that the city should borrow $21 million
to do this work, and this is what we see as the savings. And that wouldn't even have Amoresco here. And I guess the question that would be put to the council then is, shall we invest in our buildings, just like we invest in our homes and put in insulation and energy-efficient lights and the new boilers and all the rest? We would say, let's do that, and we'll save money. And I think the council would support that. I think the council would understand that these are the types of things we have to do to save money. The difference is we brought Amoresco into the room. Amoresco is a mechanism. It's a way that we can do this. They bring the expertise, they bring the knowledge, and they bring the process of putting this out to bid in a way that maximizes our savings. They provide the training, and they come to us and they say, we have a track record, we're going to guarantee those savings. We have to negotiate out the contract, and it is a little awkward here as we're trying to negotiate on the council floor. But at the end of the day, this just makes sense from a standpoint of making improvements to our buildings the way, as I said, as homeowners, we all make improvements to our homes. And I think that's really the point I'd like to make.
$21 million contract, Mr. Manager. What is Amoresco going to make for implementing these changes?
I don't. This is the estimated cost based upon their, book of knowledge of what these improvements cost. They make a certain markup on that in terms of the consulting, in terms of the training that goes on and the like. But the exact amount that they make,
their profit will be outlined, in the pricing. And because, as we said before, there's open book pricing. Not only do we get to see what each individual bidder, when they put a project out to bid, what they bid, but we also get to see what their markup is.
So shouldn't we know that before we proceed with this? Because once this vote is taken, and I want to support this, Mr. Manager. I don't mean to be so skeptical about it, but there's a lot of unanswered pieces here that maybe some are answerable and some are not. We won't know what they're going to make per, is it per project?
it may not be $21 million. It's going to be what the bidding comes out at. Everything's going to be bid, and it's going to come out, and as Ms. Moses said, and this is something that we insisted upon in this process, that we see the bids. And so we'll know what it is based upon those bids. So it could be that, it could be you're authorizing $21 million, but it could be $19 million. It won't be more than $21 million, but it could be some number less than that. And again, with all due respect to the people we have on staff, they don't come with the knowledge and expertise that we're going to get through Amoresco. And that's why you hire a firm like Amoresco and you do this type of contracting that's set up in the general laws. So, that's really what we're getting, and we're paying for it, obviously in some way, but again, it's structured in such a way that it's going to pay for itself. Mr. Vaughn?
When we put the RFP out in May of '08, there was about 8 categories that had profit margins. Out of the 6 firms that bid, Amoresco was selected, and they had the best margins on each one. There was a margin for design, a margin for construction, a margin for overhead, and everything was laid out. The reason why no one can give you a direct answer of the cost is what the city manager just said. We don't really know what the final prices of these components will bid out to. The 21 million is the maximum number it cannot exceed. But if we get better prices when they actually go out to bid, they're only going to get their margins off of each piece of it.
Are those margins going to be in the contract?
Yes, they will.
Well,
The bid itself, the RFP as well as the response is all by law made part of the contract. And so I think what Mr. Vaughn is saying is that whatever that number is, the percentage is essentially the most competitive. Because it was an RFP, it's not the absolute, it doesn't necessarily have to be the absolute lowest, but presumably it was the price component was also something that became highly advantageous to the city. Right. So whatever that price percentage is, it would be advantageous.
You're telling me it was a range when you accepted it. It wasn't one particular percentage?
One percentage for each type of component that was bid. There was a piece for design with a percentage against it, a piece for construction, but it wasn't one percentage for everything.
So we should have some ballpark figure as to what that's going to cost us, isn't it? Because it's outlined per project here, right? Each project's going to cost X amount of dollars. They've had to have estimated something to come up with a $21 million figure. So based upon each individual project and that margin, we should have some idea.
To know that, Mike, off the top of your head, the range of percentages. We don't have their proposal. I don't
I
know if
mean,
we have
Mr. Manager, you brought up a good point. We're hiring someone to do it. I just want to know what the cost is that we're hiring them to do it. What percentage or what margin is.
Right, I understand, Counselor. Of course, again, the issue that's before the council right now is the loan order, not the contract. But
I understand.
And I understand your comments.
Okay, any further discussion? Councilor Dakota.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry to bring this full circle. I thought I fully understood this, but all the questions are just making me question myself. So can I ask you a question quickly? Any of the group? Thank you. So this baseline is what you get at after you install all of the proposed improvements, correct?
You have a baseline now, which is
Okay.
the current level of energy use
Okay.
in units of energy.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand that. So once you've made all of your improvements, the reason that you don't end up paying out is because if you don't meet your expectations, you come and do more improvements? Is that how that works?
That would be possible, but generally, if we don't meet the amount of savings that have been determined and set, generally it's because there's a problem
They
with
just can't be
the
met.
particular technology, so we will generally end up coming in and fixing that technology, that particular technology.
All right. And then you end up doing, if you cannot get to that actual amount of savings, do you do just a projected bill that you pay every month? Or quarterly?
The contract has a methodology for measuring the savings from each of these technologies that we install.
Okay.
So on an ongoing basis over the 20-year life of the financing, we will come in every year. Is it quarterly or semi-annually or annually?
Quarterly and then annual.
So on a quarterly, semi-annual, and annual basis, we will do an analysis of the savings during that period for each of those components, the lighting, the boiler improvement, the new windows. The sum of all of those will be then compared against the amount of savings we guaranteed, and any shortfall would be the amount that the guarantee would apply to.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry, any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Mendonça?
Yes.
Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
No.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
No.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Loan order passes, 7 yeas, 2 nays.
Thank you. I thought that was a very, very good debate. Yes, Councilor Mather.
Mr. Mayor, before we continue with the agenda, there are some people who want to speak on particular motions.
I actually talked about that with the...
They've
with
been
the-
very
with
patient.
this-
I just wonder if we could...
Right, with the city clerk. Why don't we do this, if it's okay with my colleagues? I know the Councilor Mendonça would like to do the same. So I'm going to recognize Councilor Caulfield to suspend the rules, second by Councilor Mendonça, to take up a couple of items that some of our neighborhood representatives have been waiting here patiently. All those in favor of suspending the rules, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. The first item, if I could suggest, is the Councilor Caulfield's motion requesting the manager have traffic survey of speeding on Mariner, Fruit, and Cunningham Street. Second by Councilor Rita Mercia. I know we have people who are registered to speak. Let me just first read the motion. City Council requests the city manager have the traffic division conduct a survey for speeding on Merida, Fruit, and Cunningham Street, seconded by Council Mercia. Carol McCarthy.
Good evening. My name is Carol McCarthy. I live at 64 Blossom Street. I'm also co-chair of the Sacred Heart Neighborhood Improvement Group. And all I can say is, boy, this has been a long meeting. God bless us. But I'll be short and sweet. I thank Council Caulfield for bringing this motion up. This motion has been an issue in our neighborhood now for the past few months. At our neighborhood meeting, we've had a representative from Nikki Songas's office. We've had Dave Nangle there, just trying to resolve the issue of cars that are speeding down these side streets trying to get to the VA. They have no problems with the VA, they love the VA, but what they're saying is when they're going down the side streets at almost 40 miles an hour, they're gonna kill someone. And nothing's been resolved so far. I mean, we've talked to the VA, we've talked to the drivers. Something needs to be done to keep the neighborhood safe. One girl, we were told, was backing out of her driveway and almost got hit by them. Aside of standing in the middle of these streets and physically stopping these cars, I don't know what to do. So we're here seeking your help to try to make the neighborhood safer. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for your patience. Eileen McKinney? Thank you.
My name is Elaine McKinney. I live at 15 Mariner Street, and this has turned into quite an issue, excuse me, in our neighborhood. Our neighborhood consists of 3 streets approximately 100 yards long, and then one road that goes around the back, connecting all 3, and then it goes down to the clinic. We cannot seem to do anything to stop these cars. The worst things are the vans that are picking up the veterans, bringing them down to the clinic for their bus to go to Roxbury at 8:30 in the morning. We just don't know what to do. The trucks from FedEx and all the others, they're flying. It's just 3 small streets. Mine seems to be the worst because we all have driveways and none of us park on the street. And so it's wide open and they just fly down and they fly back. It's got, my daughter was the one that was nearly hit last year. My husband and I were so upset. We drove down to the clinic and asked, can anybody do anything for us? And the answer we got was, well, we're sorry, but he was probably late for his appointment. I'm sorry, that doesn't carry any weight anymore. We need somebody. If you come from one direction, it's just past the cemeteries, and it's just a wide open area on Boston Road. So as soon as they come up Swan Street, if they've come off the connector that way, it's just wide open. So there's not a sign that says residential. If you come from the other side, from Plain Street onto Boston Road, it's wide open as soon as you go over the bridge. There's no signs, no nothing. We really need some help for our neighborhood. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else on the motion? Chair recognizes Council Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be very brief because I think Eileen and Carol expressed themselves extremely well. I attended the Sacred Heart neighborhood meeting a week ago Monday, and they brought this forward. I said I filed a motion. Also, part of the motion, I mentioned it to the clerk, they would like signage installed on those streets, the speed limits, slow, etc. And it's, God love the veterans. It's not the veterans that are causing this problem. It's people who were servicing the veterans. Buses, transportation people, caterers and so forth. And I think they just have one notion in mind, Mr. Mayor, get down to the VA clinic and get out of there quick as you can. Well, that's not right, and this has to stop. That's the gist of the motion. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on the motion? All those in favor of the motion as presented signify by saying aye. Opposed? It's a vote. Thank you, and thank you again for your patience. If we could now, since we're still under suspension, take up item number 7, order dedicate playground at McPherson Park in honor of Conrad Gauthier. That's okay with my colleagues. In City Council, order designating the newly renovated playground at McPherson Park in the city of Lowell, Conrad Gauthier Memorial in honor of Conrad Gauthier. Whereas the city is desirous of honoring Conrad Gauthier, now therefore it is ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell that the newly renovated playground at McPherson Park in the City of Lowell is hereby designated Conrad Gothia Memorial in honor of Conrad Gothia. Second reading by title, in City Council order, designating the newly renovated playground at McPherson Park in the City of Lowell, Conrad Gothia Memorial in honor of Conrad Gothia. What's the wish of the council? Councilman Mercia. Move approval by Councilman Mercia, seconded by Councilman Donza. Any discussion? Anyone wishing to speak? Anne Marie Page. Thank you for your
My name
patience.
is Anne Marie Page, 26 Fremont Street, Lowell, and I sit on the board of the Centerville Neighborhood Action Group. Mr. Conrad Gothia was an exceptional man, and if you were lucky enough to know him, you were lucky. Other than that, I'm sorry. He was a remarkable man. He was a community activist. He was we called him our beautification coordinator. He could find a little piece of land, 3 by 3, and he'd have a flower garden on it and somebody tending it before you could turn around. Conrad was a United States Marine. He told me he's not an ex-Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. Made that perfectly clear. And his wife is here with us tonight. Mrs. Gothia is also a veteran of the U.S. Navy. So we are very pleased to hear that the Park Commission has accepted our petition to please dedicate this section of the McPherson Playground to the memory of Conrad Gothia, an exceptional neighbor, an exceptional person. And I'm sure when you get to the pearly gates, the good Lord said, Conrad, have I got a garden for you? Thank you very much.
No doubt.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was lucky enough to know Conrad. He was unbelievable. He loved the youth of the city as well. He was always mentoring the children and teaching them how to grow. And he could take a piece of barren land and turn it into the beautiful garden. He was unbelievable, and I'm honored to be saying yes. I certainly do support it. He has a wonderful wife, Pat, who is here today. They were the greatest of people in the neighborhood that got things going and growing. And so, you name it, he was always there, and I'm just so honored to be doing that for him.
Thank you. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly, I think those of us who knew Conrad are happy to support this. Many of us got notes over the years, you know, sometimes here on the desk, sometimes a packet of information dropped off at your house, and always ended with the phrase, no thanks necessary. So I'm wondering how Conrad really feels, but, you know, I think thanks are certainly in order, and I think in addition to taking care of Centerville and improving islands and things, he also led by example and took very good care of his own property in Centerville, and I think was in that way a model citizen. You really couldn't ask more of a citizen than what Conrad Gothia gave to the city. So it's a very fitting tribute. I'm happy to see it before us tonight.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott.
I agree, just briefly. I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to have known Conrad, and I would look forward to his notes as well. He did epitomize what we think of when we say neighborhood activist, and he walked the walk, and this is a fitting tribute to Mr. Gothia and his family.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Conrad Gothia was a proud Lowellian in this city, not just of Centerville, but of the entire city. And when he had a project in mind, he never ever hidden his concept or beauty for the city. He came right out with it, and he asked you, what do you think of this? I said, Conrad, that's a wonderful idea, and I think this is appropriate to name a park after Conrad Gothia, a playground where his lovely wife and the neighbors can go and enjoy and say hello to Conrad Gothia. I know if the Lord has a garden and it has flowers in it, he's at work right now.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was fortunate enough to know Conrad from my time on the council, but also from the planning board. He was a consummate activist, but what I do remember is he almost always had a smile, and he was certainly always a gentleman. And he went about his business like a gentleman, and many people, I think, benefited from his hard work. But also, a lot of people, I think, learned from the way he operated and the way he carried himself. And certainly, his family should be proud, and I'm proud to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Roll call.
Councilor Mendonça?
Yes.
Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. While we're on the suspension, if I could suggest we go 8, 9, and 10 on the agenda. Centerville, Belvedere, Centerville. Item number 8, to notify owners, 550 Bridge Street, of demolition hearing May 18th. In City Council, vote authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to notify the owners of a certain property that a public hearing will be held pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 139. Whereas the City Council of the City of Lowell desires to hold a public hearing for the purpose of determining if certain properties located in said city are a nuisance to the neighborhood or dangerous, and to determine what disposition, if any, may be prescribed. Now therefore, be it voted by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows: that the owners of the properties be notified that a public hearing will be held by the City Council under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 139, Section 1, on May 18, 2010, at 7 p.m. in the City Council chambers of City Hall, 550 Bridge Street. The purpose of the hearing is to determine if the building structures or parcels of land involved are a nuisance to this neighborhood or dangerous, and what disposition, order, or regulation shall be prescribed by this Lowell City Council, if any. Second reading by title. In City Council vote, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to notify the owners of a certain property that a public hearing will be held pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 139. What's the wish of the council? Move approval to notify the owner. Move approval by Council Mercy, second by Council Elliott. Roll call.
Councilor Mendonça?
Yes.
Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. In City Council vote, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to accept a gift from the Friends of Rogers Fort Hill Park Incorporated of $1,650 for use by the Parks and Recreation Department. Whereas the Friends of Rogers Fort Hill Park Incorporated desire to donate $1,650 to the City of Lowell to place a bench donated by Scott Dickinson at Fort Hill Park with a plaque in memory of Sophie and Victor Alex, lifelong residents at Fort Hill Park. And whereas the City of Lowell desires to accept the gift of said sum to be utilized for said bench and plaque in memory of Sophie and Victor Alex at Fort Hill Park, now therefore be it voted that the city manager be and he is hereby authorized in the name of the City of Lowell to accept a gift from the Friends of Rogers Fort Hill Park Incorporated and Scott Dickinson of $1,650 for use by the Parks and Recreation Department to place a bench at Fort Hill Park with a plaque in memory of Sophie and Victor Alex, all pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A. Be it further voted that we, the members of the City Council of the City of Lowell, jointly and severally, do hereby commend and officially thank the Friends of Rogers Fort Hill Park Incorporated and Mr. Scott Dickinson for their generosity displayed in donating the aforesaid gift to the City of Lowell for use by the Parks and Recreation Department. Second reading by title. In City Council vote, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to accept a gift from the Friends of the Rogers Fort Hill Park Incorporated of $1,650 for use by the Parks and Recreation Department. Motion to approve by Council Broderick, seconded by Council Dakota. Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Mendonça?
Yes.
Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I am Scott Dickinson. I'd just like to say thank you
Thank
to
you.
the council, and it's refreshing that, we have a teamwork between the Parks Department and City of Lowell. It's a win-win situation. My great aunt and has been a resident there 50 years, and she passed away last year. And this bench actually looks at the house, so it's definitely a win-win situation. And I'm a new member to the park board, Friends of
Thank
Roger
you.
Ford Hill Park. Just want to say a few words.
Thank you.
Bill Foss, Hague Street, Lowell. Rogers Ford Hill Park, at 34 acres in size, is Lowell's largest scenic park, serving the public of Lowell since the turn of the last century. 10 years ago, the city of Lowell, with matching state landscape preservation grant money, spent thousands of dollars to undertake part of a comprehensive historic restoration of Rogers Ford Hill Park. About a third of the lower park saw new trees, a fountain, and numerous gardens with flowers and shrubs restored. At that time, 10 years ago, the Friends of Rogers Ford Hill Park formed a group that today still exists and is now a 501c3 charitable organization solely for the benefit of Rogers Ford Hill Park and to ensure that that initial investment by the city made in Rogers Ford Hill Park was protected. 3 of the original 4 members of the board of the Friends of Rogers Ford Hill Park are active board members today, and one of those members, Ann Kavanaugh, has recently been notified that she, along with the Friends of Rogers Ford Hill Park, will receive an Excellence in Heritage Preservation Award by the United States Department of the Interior, Lowell National Park Service. The Friends of Rogers Ford Hill Park has a board of 7 individuals who meet regularly to formally carry out the duties required of a volunteer organization, such as responsible review of annual spending, tax filings, and other administrative duties. The same group of individuals does the work of planning free educational activities for the park, manning the activities, coordinating fundraising activities, and the actual regular physical labor required to maintain the park's shrubs and flower beds. That hands-on labor includes the raking of leaves, digging and transplanting shrubs and small trees, mulching, pruning, trimming, planting perennials, cutting tree limbs, and most importantly, litter patrols. The park does not belong to our group, so we all know that we do all of the above with no strings attached, knowing full well that the park belongs to the public, and at any time we could see our hard work destroyed or taken for granted. On average, 30 or so citizens regularly give annual cash donations during our fundraising mailing drive to pay for the plants, supplies, and everything that we invest back into the park. The number of citizens donating has increased over the years, as have the dollars, but those dollars pay for the minimum needed supplies and plants. This year, we have already broken ground on a new garden on a slope of a hill facing the High Street side of the park, where we will dig, rototill, and groom a 30 by 15-foot bed and plant some 30 shrubs. We have plans for at least 2 woodland gardens intended to soften the transition of park bench areas that are now overgrown from behind by the encroaching woods. A group subcommittee has met to sponsor a fundraising recycled home good sale event in the park, also known as a yard sale, in order to raise funds for our projects and raise awareness of the value in recycling usable goods. This Saturday at 8:30, we have scheduled our annual spring park cleanup, so anyone wishing to fulfill their Earth Day, Arbor Day, or other environmental obligation guilt can join us at the park. All the usual free activities that Friends of Rogers Hill Park sponsor in partnership with other organizations for the benefit of the public at the park will continue to take place and include a star party, which is when amateur astronomers set up their telescopes at the top of Fort Hills Park so public attendees can view the stars or look beyond into the universe. Pruning seminars are given for free where the public can see firsthand from experts how to approach pruning trees and shrubs. Maple sugaring events in the winter provide the public insight into how to tap their own trees for maple syrup. The most important free of charge activity the Friends of Rogers Fort Hill Park provides every single day is a meaningful day at the park for everyone. Over 1,000 volunteer hours were performed this past year by volunteers and the Friends of Rogers Fort Hill Park, so everyone who comes to the park will come to a park that is reasonably maintained, relatively free of litter, with little sign of vandalism, and where Mother Nature takes center stage. Other parks in the city feature small, intimate neighborhood charm, special interest, education, entertainment, or the excitement of sports play or other athletic facilities. In this day and age, those special interest parks where games are played or the neighbors can meet are an absolute must. We support all of our park groups in the city. However, when the games are played, real life begins. So people like to get away to think, to refocus and shift their outlook. With 34 acres of both sweeping lawns with gardens, bolstered by vast sweeps of wooded hillside with endless trails, Rogers Fort Hill Park offers visitors a passive, meaningful experience. It offers them perspective and the freedom to do nothing, even for just a moment, and just be at the park. It's the park for everyone else. On some evenings after ball games, I've noticed ball players in the park that have come from down the street, and I noticed them sitting still in uniform quietly on a bench in a corner at Rogers Fort Hill Park. Maybe the game didn't go as planned, or maybe it did, who knows. On these upcoming weekends through late fall, when the fashionable gazebo at Kittredge Park is booked, there'll be the inevitable arrival of bridal parties parking near the Japanese maple grove, which the Friends of Fort Hill Park installed in the park years ago. I've noticed the solitary bride and groom, waiting for photographers to stage the next shot, stare out over the vast park lawn or up the hill through the forest to catch a glimpse of the top of the hill, seeking some perspective on the future on that most important day of their life. Rogers Fort Hill Park was conceived back in the last century as a timeless retreat where weary urban dwellers can escape the rigors of city life, competition, commercialism, and technology. The goal of the Friends of Rogers Fort Hill Park is to protect that original purpose and the City of Lowell's investment in the park. The aging infrastructure of this 34-acre park requires at least some dependable municipal services. Our second most important partner after Mother Nature has been the City of Lowell. Tom Bellegarde, Steve Petrell, Tom Bellegarde, Diane Trad, Tom Bellegarde, and Tom Bellegarde have all been key professional contacts and responsive to our needs. They've all been exceptionally helpful, especially in the recent times of cutbacks, making sure that our park does not get more than its share of city resources, but at least they do it with a call back or a message back and a very polite explanation and no. We trust that the city provides our park with its share of resources proportionate to the size of a 34-acre park. Back 10 years ago, when the Friends of Rogers Fort Hill Park signed up to preserve the investment the City of Lowell made in the park, there was a full-time park attendant who took pride in doing the basics of coordinating trash barrel, emptying, lawn mowing, leaf removal coordination, and overseeing heavy-duty civil task work. That full-time attendant became a part-time 2- or 3-day attendant, and last year that part-time attendant was entirely eliminated. For a 34-acre park, this has been an exceptional challenge for our small group and could put its future in question. My name is Bill Foss. I am the current president of the Friends of Rogers Fort Hill Park. Along with my small group of board members, we intend to continue to face the challenges. I'm here tonight simply to ask the City of Lowell for recognition and respect for the Friends of Rogers Fort Hill Park, and to ask that you pass the word among other city departments to acknowledge our calls and messages. We promise to keep our requests reasonable. I hate to think that we'll have to go through another summer like last summer without the water turned on in the park fountain, simply due to indifference at City Hall. As experienced gardeners, persistent, hardworking possibility thinkers, and so-so fundraisers, we know that the kind of funds needed to complete our larger plans for a 34-acre park will have to come from a benevolent donor, a sustaining endowment, another government grant, or as a result of the help of an extraordinary government official. Lowell has another Paul Tsongas in the making. We know it's true, and when that time comes for further investment in Rogers Fort Hill Park, our group is ready to help with our experience and dedication. In the meantime, the Friends of Rogers Fort Hill Park will continue to improve the city's original investment in the park, one day, $1, one shrub, one bench at a time, and will continue to encourage all citizens to help, not just in our park, but all of Lowell's Park. Tonight, one such citizen, Scott Dickinson, is here because he has donated the funds for a replacement bench at Rogers Fort Hill Park to be dedicated in the memory of Sophie and Alex Allen, longtime residents of Lowell and good neighbors of Rogers Fort Hill Park. The donation of a bench to replace the 15 or so dilapidated or missing benches at the park is the kind of generous, benevolent donation that is in keeping with the spirit of the park and the Friends of Rogers Fort Hill Park mission. A park bench is a discreet, welcome tribute that promotes a meaningful day in the park. As president of the Friends of Rogers Fort Hill Park, I thank you for listening and considering this gift, and as a tax-paying citizen of Lowell, I thank you all for your service to the city.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Good job. Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Dickinson. While we're under suspension, the last item while we're under suspension is in City Council vote authorizing the city manager to accept the proposal of JTL Realty LLC in the amount of $70,000 to purchase property located at 27 4th Street, also known as 29 4th Street, Lowell, and to execute all documents necessary for the transfer of the property. Whereas the City of Lowell owns the property at 27 4th Street, Lowell, Mass., having acquired title July 15, 1851 for the sum of $822.80, recorded in Middlesex North Registry of Deeds in Book 583, page 125. And whereas the City Council of the City of Lowell voted on August 25, 2009 to declare this property located at 27 4th Street, also known as 29 4th Street, surplus, and offer the same for sale under the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 30B, with a minimum proposal price of $10,000. And whereas the City of Lowell issued a request for proposal for the sale of 27 4th Street with certain conditions contained therein, and whereas JTL Realty LLC did submit a proposal to the City of Lowell containing a minimum proposed price of $70,000, and whereas the city manager has recommended to the City Council that the city accept the proposal, enter into a purchase and sale agreement with JTL Realty LLC. Now therefore be it voted by the City Council that the city manager and the city treasurer be, and they are hereby authorized in the name of the City of Lowell to sell and convey to JTL Realty LLC or nominee as approved by the city manager for the sum of $70,000 on such terms and conditions as the city manager deems in the best interest of the City of Lowell, the property located at 27 4th Street, also known as 29 4th Street, Lowell, owned by the City of Lowell, and to execute all documents necessary for the transfer of the property, including but not limited to purchase and sale agreement, deed, execution and delivery, release of any demolition lien, and any other related documents pertaining to the sale and transfer of said property consistent with this vote. Waive the full reading by Councilor Mendonça, second by Councilor Caulfield. All those in favor of waiving the full reading signify by saying aye. Opposed? Second reading by title. In City Council vote, authorizing the city manager to accept the proposal of JTL Realty LLC in the amount of $70,000 to purchase property located at 27 4th Street, also known as 29 4th Street, Lowell, and to execute all documents necessary to the transfer of the property. Motion?
Move for approval.
Move for approval by Councilor Caulfield, second by Councilor Dakota. Any discussion?
Thank you.
Garcia.
Mr. Mayor, through you to the city manager, were there any back taxes due on this property?
The city owned it.
This is a former fire station.
Oh.
City owned it.
Oh, the city property.
Right there.
And
We didn't know
what
any
are they-
back taxes.
So what are they going to do with this property?
This is be turned into residential units. I believe it's going to be 3 residential units. but
Two
three.
units.
3,
Oh, 3.
correct.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield and Councilor Broderick.
Mr. Mayor, the city had a minimum bid of $10,000. This developer is offering $70,000, and what's even better than that, it will be on the tax rolls. So it's a win situation.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick.
That's all I was going to say, too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Mendonça?
Yes.
Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. I'd like to thank my colleagues for allowing us to suspend the rules and take those out of order. Moving back on with the regular agenda, the first item under the city manager, communication from city manager, responses to council motions and requests. Councilor Mendonça.
Just briefly, there was a street sweeping schedule in the packet, and the information from the manager indicating that it'll be on the website, and we hope the media will pick it up and publicize these so that people can avoid parking on the side of the street that they plan to sweep, and we can get our city clean. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Councilor Caulfield.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just want to thank the manager for furnishing the information on 278 Central Street, 945 Middlesex Street, and 6264 Highland Street. And Mr. Manager, I hope the owners of these properties will certainly respond to our request to address these issues, especially the one on Thorndike and Highland Street. Thank you.
Council Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager, some time ago I asked for information about 51 Nottingham Street, and of course you know there's going to be a public hearing April 27th, probably next Tuesday. And the reason I'm bringing up this again is because once we make a decision, the vote and the decision is final. And I completely feel that we could think outside the box and say, here's a piece of property that the city doesn't own. It's not really behind in taxes. It's valued at $349,000, and it has ample amount of parking. Have we ever thought maybe to look at this property ourselves and to look and see if we could make the police garage in there? Has that possibility occurred? Because I know you can drive vehicles in there, and I'm just thinking, how much would it cost to repair the roof and the structure, and would it be so far gone that, I know that I had asked for some information about contamination. You provided that. The report that I got from Adam Bakey, whatever, said that there was contamination. The report that I found and the study said that there isn't significant contamination at all. So I don't know who to believe, and I can provide that for my colleagues in the packet for Friday. But I'm thinking, is it possible we could look at that and see if maybe we could use that, take it by eminent domain, or give what we feel it's worth, and how much would it cost to repair it, to make it serviceable? I don't know, it's just a thought, I'm just thinking.
Counselor, we can certainly look into that. There'll be the cost of acquisition, and then I'm sure it would require some work, additional work. We can certainly take a look at that. I haven't looked at that.
If we could
so
just get an
Sure.
idea on that.
Absolutely. On the issue of the contamination, Mr. Bakey has some.
Certainly take a look at that. Can I touch on the answer to your first question in terms of the costs? I think given that this is a property whose existing condition rises to the level of being before the council for a consideration for a demolition order, it's almost a guarantee that the cost of renovating it for the purpose of the police facility would exceed the cost of building new on city-owned land, especially if you also take into consideration the fact that we'd have to pay to acquire the property as well. I haven't run all the numbers, but that would be highly likely to be the outcome of that. With respect to the environmental contamination issues, there were environmental testing that the city did back when the city was the owner of this property. We acquired the property because a former owner had failed to pay their taxes back in the 1990s. Prior to our sale of the property, we had done a substantial amount of environmental investigation and identified some contamination that was on the property at the time. The owner, the purchaser, the party that purchased it from the city, completed a sufficient amount of environmental remediation to essentially clear the releases that had been identified by our testing with the DEP. But as many on the council are familiar, there are a number of different ways that you can sort of have a property deemed clean by the DEP with respect to the contamination that had been specifically identified by prior testing, which doesn't necessarily mean that there are no other contaminants that just haven't been found. That may or may not be the case in the case of this property.
So am I led to believe that the cost of repairing the structures, like the roof is open to the weather and the structure itself is bowing out on a certain area, that would supersede the cost of what the building is worth? And it wouldn't be worth to
I would have to guess that that's quite likely in this case. I haven't analyzed it in great detail, and certainly not with this particular question in mind. But again, given that it is at the condition where it is before the council shortly for a public hearing to discuss the demolition of the property, the cost of renovation would likely be substantial.
And so if the council did vote in the public hearing to demolish, and I'm not saying they will, but I'm just trying to think ahead, what happens to that property then? Does it go out for bid from that point? What happens after that?
Well, if it would continue to be held by the property owner, but with a lien on the property for the amount.
For the cost of demolition.
Correct.
So we wouldn't have any right to then put it out for bid to
no.
refurbish that property.
No.
So what we'd have there is a building that we wouldn't own, but the structure would be down. That's it?
A piece of property we wouldn't own, but the structure would be down, similar to what we've done in a number of other cases, but there'd be a lien on the property for the amount of the demolition.
So what if it would be possible that there would be a person of interest with substantial money that would want to come forward to probably buy that property and remain in the tax roll as a commercial property instead of, I don't know, a developer coming along building condos out of that, or homes or whatever? Would that have to be taken up with the person that owns it, or the group that own it?
I mean, just
Where do we go from here? What are we achieving? We're achieving just a demolition of a building and leave it open up?
Mr. Manager?
If I may, the solicitor?
Right, I guess I'm not clear as to, and I apologize, somebody had a quick question, so I had missed the address and how we got onto this subject, but.
It's one of the three properties
Right,
next
and-
week,
and
51 Nottingham.
Right, and because of that, we can't, this is one of those areas that the council will be sitting in a quasi-judicial capacity, receiving testimony, and we wouldn't want the owner to be under the impression that it's going to be judged on anything other than the merits of the condition of the property, and then the very narrow issue that is before the council, which is, the issue of demolition. Should the property come down or not?
Okay.
And that's really the limit of what we can discuss. In general terms, we certainly can answer any questions as to what typically happens when we have to go in and demolish a property and things of that nature, but not on the specific ones.
That's fine, thank you, that's all.
Any other, Councilman Dodson?
Any other night, we could spend more time on this, but we were using up lots of time. But I would like to commend the city manager on the Neighborhood Impact Team initiative and the report that's in here, and suggest that it may be either in this form or in whatever form would be appropriate, put on the website somehow as a report, so we get it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Any other discussions on the communication? All those in favor of placing the communications on file signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Next item, communications, city manager requests approval of out-of-state travel. We have one out-of-state travel request. Motion to approve by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Caulfield. Roll call.
Councilor Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. The next item of communication from the city manager, resignation from Hunger Homeless Commission. We have a letter in our packets from the city manager accepting the resignation of Amy Pescia, director of the Merrimack Valley Food Bank. Accept the communication and place on file by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor of accepting communication placed on file signify by saying aye.
There's an appointment in there, too.
To vote. Thank you. I'm told by the clerk there's an appointment in here as well. Yes. We have an appointment from the city manager. Dear Mayor Milanazzo, members of the council, pursuant to the authority vested in me as city manager under Chapter 382 of the Acts of 1991 and the Code of City of Lowell, Article 7, Section 9-23, I'm appointing the following person to the Hunger Homeless Commission. Sulin O'Neill, 735 Broadway Street, Lowell, Mass., appointed to the unexpired term vacated by Amy Pescia, which term will expire January 1st, 2012, or until such time thereafter as the successor is appointed and qualified. Under the above referenced ordinance, confirmation by the city council is not required. Except the communication placed on file by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Dakota. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Thank you. Next item, in city council order, pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinance, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Whereas the City of Lowell desires to make temporary traffic rules regulating traffic under actual conditions for a period of 60 days, and whereas Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, Section 266-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, authorizes City Council to make such temporary rules for a period not to exceed 60 days. Now therefore be it voted, adjudged, and decreed by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows. Effective immediately for a period of 60 days thereafter, the following temporary traffic regulations shall be implemented. Section 266-55, parking for persons, handicapped person is hereby amended by adding the following. Kirk Street, September 1st through June 15th, east side beginning at a point 26 feet north of the northern curb line of Lee Street, running north of distance of 40 feet along Kirk Street, 2 spaces. These spaces, handicap spaces, are effective 7:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday from September 1st to June 15th. Section 266-44, one-way street designated, is hereby amended by deleting the following. Bassett Street from Hudson Street southwesterly to Whipple Street. Section 266-44, one-way street designated, is hereby amended by adding the following. Bassett Street from Whipple Street northeasterly to Hudson Street. Second reading by title. In City Council vote. Pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, temporary traffic regulations, are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. The wish of the council. Councilman Mendonça?
Move approval. And
Move approved by Councilman Mendonça, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Councilman Mendonça.
just briefly, the Bassett Street part of that, we met with the residents of the street. Jeff Gomes had a meeting, and I was present, and of those residents that attended, all were in favor of making this change.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Mendonça?
Yes.
Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
9 yeas.
In City Council ordinance, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 171 thereof, entitled Health and Sanitation, with respect to refuse dumpsters. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows. The Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, hereinafter called a code adopted by the City Council on December 23rd, 2008, as amended, is hereby further amended with respect to Chapter 171 thereof, entitled Health and Sanitation, with respect to Section 171-13, entitled Refuse Dumpsters, is further amended as follows. 1. By amending subparagraph G of Section 171-13 as follows. Existing, G, location. Each dumpster must be located at a distance from the lot line so as not to interfere with the safety, convenience, or health of abutters and residents and the public, and not to damage the physical integrity of the curb and sidewalk. The location of dumpsters shall be subject to approval of the Health Department and the Fire Department. Proposed additional language, italicized, G location. Each dumpster must be located at a distance from the lot line, front, side, or rear, so as not to interfere with the safety, convenience, or health of abutters and residents and the public, and not to damage the physical integrity of the curb and sidewalk. Dumpsters shall not be located within front yard space nor any other usable open space as designated in a project site plan. Where no adequate space exists for accommodating a fixed dumpster, one of the following options shall be employed. 1. Smaller wheel dumpsters. 2. Wheeled cart system. The location of dumpsters shall be subject to approval of the Health Department and the Fire Department. 2. All provisions of the Code of the City of Lowell as amended, which are consistent with this ordinance, shall continue in effect, but all provisions of said code inconsistent herewith are repealed. 3. This ordinance shall take effect upon its passage in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 43 of Massachusetts General Laws, approved as to form Christine P. O'Connor, City Solicitor. Motion to refer to a public hearing on May 4th by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor of referring to public hearing on May 4th signify by saying aye. Opposed is to vote. Next item, in City Council ordinance. An ordinance amending the Code of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 185 by adding a new Section 185-10 entitled Yard Sales. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows. The Code of Ordinances of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, hereinafter called the Code, adopted by the City Council on December 23, 2008, is amended, is hereby further amended with respect to Chapter 185 by adding new Sections 185-10 to 185-10.4 as follows. Section 185-10, Yard Sale. Any display of merchandise for sale or barter at a residential location not otherwise regularly used or specifically designated for the sale or exchange of merchandise for the purpose of this ordinance, yard sales shall include similar events also known as garage sales, tailgate sales, flea markets, house sales, and moving sales. Section 185-10.1, permit required limitations. A, the property owner and or resident must first obtain a yard sale permit from the city clerk at a minimum of 3 days prior to the opening day of the event. B, yard sales and or similar activities may not continue for a time greater than 3 calendar days and may only be conducted during the daylight hours between sunrise and sunset. C, yard sales and or similar activities may not be conducted more than 2 times each calendar year on the same property, nor may they be held within a 30-day period from the closing date of the previous sale. D, all items for the sale must originate from the home and may not include merchandise such as alcoholic beverages, firearms, fireworks, animals, or any other merchandise that requires proper licensing and authorization from state or local authorities. E, promotion of yard sale using loud speakers, amplifiers, or other noise deemed a nuisance is not permitted. Signage must conform to Section 6.2 of the zoning ordinance. F, the property and or resident owner must remove all signs advertising the sale hours of the closing of the event. G, property owners and our residents shall be limited to 2 permits per calendar year, and further, each permitted yard sale event shall not run longer than the 3 consecutive calendar days. Section 185-10-2, permit fee. For every permit granted under this section, there should be paid to the city clerk a fee of $5. Section 185-10.3, violations and penalties. Any property owner and a resident who fails to obtain a yard sale permit 3 days prior to the opening of the yard sale or otherwise violates this section shall forfeit $50 for the first violation of this section, $100 for the second violation of this section, and $200 thereafter. 185-10.4, enforcement. This yard sale section, 185-10, shall be enforced by the City of Lowell Police Department, building inspectors, health inspectors, trash inspectors, and any other personnel so authorized by the city. All provisions of the Code of the City of Lowell as amended, which are consistent with this ordinance, shall continue in effect, but all provisions of said code inconsistent herewith are repealed. This ordinance shall take effect upon its passage in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 43 of General Laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts as amended. Approved as to form Christine P. O'Connor, City Solicitor. Motion to refer to public hearing May 4th by Councilor Murphy, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor of referring to public hearing for May 4th signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to comment on this.
I don't know if you can. It's going to
I
a public
just
hearing.
asked
Oh,
the
okay.
solicitor, she said that I could.
Okay.
And I'm commenting on it in this respect, that I hope the public is aware of this. And I know that we should establish regulations, laws, boundaries, we should structure it. I certainly don't want to see a yard sale sign up the duration of the summer when they only had a yard sale one day and I have to look at that sign for the rest of the year. I don't like it. I think that's the person that should pay the $5 or whatever, not the person having the yard sale. Is it ever going to end that we actually own our property and can do things to help us out? I don't get it. I may never have a yard sale, but to limit me to 2, and then I got to go down to City Hall and get a permit 3 days before. If I'm having the yard sale on a Saturday, I got to go down 3 days before that. I have to work. By the time I get out, the City Hall is closed. It's like we're nickel and diming the public left and right. I know that you want to generate money, but I'm just taken aback by it. Find the people that are breaking the law. I think people are trying to use their property. I don't mind that we're restructuring this and making rules and regulations. Absolutely, we should. But to say you can only have 2 yard sales a year, this is the means by which people get rid of the dresses or whatever from the kids and generate that extra money because they can no longer use it because it's more or less junk to them now, but it's somebody else's treasure and they're getting a bargain. This is a whole other world out there. I know of that other world where the people are having a hard time, and so they put together a yard sale to sell the things that accumulated up in their attic or in the garage or in the basement or whatever. I mean, I can sympathize with that they're trying to make money. I know you're doing your job, but it's like we're nickel and diming you to death that we want to get every last dollar out of you. I can't believe it. So let's say that they put an ad in the paper for the yard sale. It's $30 plus the $5, it's $35. Now they gotta try to sell $35 worth of stuff before they even make a profit. I'm taken aback by it. I'm shocked by it. I'm sure there are people that are abusing it. Those are the people you go after, not Mrs. Smith down the street that wants to have a yard sale and clean out some stuff, and at the same, because she knows that she doesn't want to throw it out, it's going to cost her money, so maybe that junk is somebody else's treasure. I sympathize with the whole group of people out there that they like this. This is a good thing for them. I don't know. Some people like to golf, some people like yard sales. It's all in all, but we're going to decide that, we're going to charge you $5 now. I can't believe it. I mean, I'm shocked by it. I don't want to bleed people. We're bleeding people. I'm sick of bleeding people. Find the bad people. Don't find the good people that are trying to earn a living. I don't know. It's just me. And I hope people are listening and they come down here in droves. I want to hear someone say, good for you. I want you to charge people. Maybe you should make it 10. I'm shocked by it, Mr. Manager. I'm sorry.
Council Broderick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess we can feel free to speak on it. So I don't have a problem with regulating it. I think the $5, give or take, it doesn't matter to me personally if we charge $5 or if we just say you have to get a permit. What is happening in some of the neighborhoods is that people do this for a living. They're running it every weekend. It causes problems in the neighborhood with parking, with trash, with people leaving signs up that litter the neighborhoods. This is not just a matter of let Mrs. Smith have a yard sale and make $80 so she can buy groceries or diapers. This is about people that abuse the system and take advantage of the neighborhood or the fact that their house is on a busy street. And we all know certain streets and certain areas that there are yard sales every weekend or every 2 or 3 weekends, and there's no way that person accumulated that amount of clothing or that amount of bureaus and goods over the course of a winter. If we want to make it 3 permits, I don't know where we got this number from. I'm open. But in the $5, I don't care if we charge. But I think we have to have something in here that protects the integrity of the neighborhoods at a minimum, so that people, they don't have to bear the burden of someone else who's driving around collecting things, however they do it. Or people pulling together, whatever they do. We've all seen it, certain places that have yard sales, every 2 weeks or every weekend, and the signs are up. You come home from church, you see the signs all over the place. You go to work Monday, the signs are on the ground. If it rains out, it becomes more of an issue of a nuisance and littering than prohibiting people from going out and making a couple dollars. Yard sales are not for me. I just because, quite frankly, I don't want to drag all my stuff out and have to bring it all back in. I donate it, but it doesn't matter what my preference is. I think this is a matter of having some type of system. But forget about the $5. The $5 doesn't even cover the cost of the person to process the permit. I think this is really a matter of, it's like the clerk's office, the $10 for a birth certificate. You come down, you pay it to get it, but that doesn't even cover the cost of having do all this work. I think in this situation, really what we have to try and focus on is not so much whether we charge or not, but the fact that we need something in place that takes care of everybody else out there or as you said, that will punish the people that are breaking the law or offending, and those are the people that are doing it week in and week out in abusing their neighbors. And there's no way for them to say, "Hey, stop! I want to be able to come home on a Saturday afternoon and park my car in front of my house and not park down the street till you close up your garage." It's just not fair. And I think that I look forward to the public hearing and, I guess, airing my opinion. But
Mr. Manager?
In any information we can get as far as why we charging a fee and how we came up with the number of 2, Thank you.
Mr. Manager?
Well, first off, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, I I can assure you this isn't to nickel and dime and to create a whole bunch of revenue. I don't see this as really raising much revenue at all. It's basically, we receive complaints on a regular basis of people, exactly as Councilor Broderick describes, that have people in their neighborhoods have yard sales, what they call a yard sale, every single weekend, and they have in many of these instances they have trucks pulling up and unloading. Those aren't yard sales; those are businesses, and they're causing neighborhood strife, and they're causing some problems that we need to regulate, because they're not supposed to be businesses in these residential neighborhoods. So we've basically taken the ordinances that exist in other communities and basically sort of just copied it over and tweaked it a little bit. It's necessary to get a permit. The $5 is just to add some weight to the idea that you're coming down, you're getting a permit. Again, that can be deleted. It's not a revenue stream for us, that's for sure. As far as the number, most communities only allow 2. If we wanted to do 3, that's certainly something, 3 or 4, that's probably something that's reasonable. But it's the problem of people that are doing this and really operating businesses, not operating real yard sales, as Council, as you've described.
Well, thank you.
Marcia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to the city manager. In that respect, I don't agree with that. Truck should be pulling up doing that. So make it applicable to what you just said, because how are we making a profit? If you get caught without pulling the permit for the first time, you fine $50, and then the second time it's $100, and then anything thereafter is $200. That's where we're making the money. I see a sign up that says yard sale at 32 XYZ Street, but there's no phone number, and it was Sunday from 1 to 5 or whatever, and today is Wednesday, then we send in an inspector to 32 XYZ Street, and they're getting fined. Don't find the person that's having the yard sale and obeying the law. But I do think that there should be structure here and boundaries stating what you said, that trucks pulling up and da-da-da-da. That's not what I'm talking about, but I don't want to hurt.
We should investigate that. Nope.
Well, but anyway.
Thank you.
May 4th, darling, come to the
Yeah,
thing.
May 4th.
Thank you.
All those in favor of referring it to a public hearing for May 4th, signify by saying aye. Opposed, to vote. Subcommittee reports. Council Mercia?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. We had the Parks and Recreation Subcommittee this afternoon at 5 o'clock. My colleagues, Councilor Caulfield, Councilor Broderick was there, along with City Manager Bernie Lynch and the assistant to the city manager, Henry Marchand, along with John Leahy from the school committee, Joe Mendonça, Frankie Dakota, and it was a very informative meeting. It was about the safety issues at Father Maguire Park that Councilor Elliott had as a motion, referred it to us. And we did take a look at it. The city manager was aware of it. He sent the assistant to the city manager, Henry Marchand, down to speak to the people and the organizers of the league. There was many suggestions made, and we did learn from the people there that there was drug activity taking place. They were concerned about lighting. They were concerned about the quality of life in the park per se, that when the league is playing basketball, which we had Cheryl Saber there. Cheryl Saber was talking about, she's a basketball coach from Jeanne d'Arc Basketball League, and she said that when the older kids go and play basketball, families are there and they send the youngsters over to the playground to, occupy their time, but it's being taken over by 16, 17, and 18-year-olds that are too big for that playground equipment. And they're hanging around, and they're very nasty, and they're using foul language and things. There's no respect shown, and it's not supposed to be that way. We, as a city, spend a lot of money to refurbish these parks to make it enjoyable for the neighborhood. It seems that these are older neighborhood children that are coming over and being very rude and obnoxious, and it's not supposed to be that way. And so we know that the parks are open to everyone, but It shouldn't be like that. I know that the city manager had sent someone over to cut back the tree limbs so that lighting could show from the various poles there. They were concerned about the concession stand where 2 lights in the front illuminated. They wanted to know if they could put 2 in the back to add extra lighting. Maybe we could post signs, enforceable signage there that the youth of that age shouldn't be in a playground dominating and more or less bullying those little kids. There's an atmosphere there at the Father Maguire Park that parents don't want to send their children down there, and that shouldn't be the case in the city. They're taxpayers. This is recreation land that is used for everybody in the city, and it's not right that they should be fearful of going back there. It was suggested that perhaps the group meet in advance with the police department to get an outline of what their interests are and what they're looking to accomplish there. We will meet again in 30 days. There was talk of an undercover police officer going to that site, and it was learned that there are packets of drugs exchanging hands, and that's clearly a violation of the law. And so if we could have some sort of police presence, I know there's Park and Ride, the police department will have the police officer there. Deb from the neighborhood group also talked about Captain Flaherty, and if we could know of the calls that take place, we encourage people to call, and because it gets put into a CAD system, and then we could know when exactly these calls are coming from, what time, and we could substantiate a pattern here. There was a motion made that we will recess the subcommittee and revert back in 30 days for the report of progress that's taken place and the things that have developed. Is talk about putting a light on the telephone pole for the fact that they figure illuminating the park will be a detriment to kids hanging around. I'm sure if I forgot anything, I know my colleagues can come up with whatever I forgot to say, but it was a very informative meeting. It was well attended, and we're very thankful, Mr. Manager, that you've started already to make improvements there. We'll meet again in 30 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Mercia.
Accept the report as a report of progress.
Motion by Council Caulfield to accept the report as a report of progress, second by Councilman Mendoza. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, vote. Thank you. Subcommittee reports. Council Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. The Finance Subcommittee met this evening to discuss 2 issues. We really just got to one of them, and that really was relative to the Department of Revenue report that was issued. Well, it was issued a couple of years ago, but we still have some follow-up items. Mr. Moses went through most of them. But the long and the short of it, the primary discussion at the meeting was the cash reconciliation. In the Treasurer's Office, managers will be, it's been mentioned in management letters, and the administration has been focusing on it. It's more of an issue of labor and staff. The manager will be coming in, I believe, next week, maybe next week, with a reorganization of that office. Other items were discussed, as well as there were questions on the fire and police detail and the collections in that office, but you're working on that with the police department. So we just went through the entire report, improvements that have been made, and as well as recommendations that will be coming forth. The second part of the meeting was to discuss performance budgeting, motion that was referred over. The manager went through a brief presentation, gave some illustrations as to how it would work and what types of information, outputs or outcomes that are part of the performance budgeting. What are people getting for their taxes? So we didn't spend too much time. We did recess to a later date, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, to continue discussion on that item. And we did ask the manager, in light of the fact that we're preparing or almost in the midst of the budget season, that we'll continue with the hybrid type of budget that has a little bit of the old and some of the new, which to some degree is the beginning stages of performance budgeting. So that's a report of progress, Mr. Mayor. It's a brief recap. It was a good meeting. I thought the manager and his staff have made significant improvements on a lot of those items that are highlighted in that report. And we'll look forward to that reorganization that'll address some of the reconciliation issues in the treasurer's office, treasurer collector's office.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Accept the report as a report of progress by Councilman Mendoza, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, vote. Thank you. Any other subcommittee reports? Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last Thursday, the Environmental Subcommittee and Finance Subcommittee had a joint meeting to discuss the yard waste collection. It was initially thought that we might be able to realize some savings by making some adjustments to that schedule based on the reduced volume that the Solid Waste and Recycling Advisory Committee found in its report. But we did hear back from Allied Waste, who indicated that the savings wouldn't be as substantial as previously thought because of billing, which really aligns more with the number of trucks that are sent out and not necessarily just a flat rate of weekly billing. So it was a general sense of the committee members that at this time we won't be looking to make any substantial changes to the yard waste collection. But I think that the report did indicate really some potential for future savings if we are to do some more education to the public about types of methods of grass management, I guess, and looking at things like composting and mulching, so that we reduce the actual volume, and then we might be able to realize those future savings. So the general sense of it was that we won't make any changes now at this point because of, although we would realize some savings, it's not enough really to warrant any further action at this point.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Mr. Manager?
Very briefly, I just wanted to, Councilor Murphy hit on all of the points that were raised at that meeting. I think he also in his comments raised the issue that I think led to his filing the motion to start with the opportunity for some real savings there. And one of the things that has become very clear to us is that there needs to be that educational component. And I think that the idea that there could be some savings there. We actually pay more per ton for yard waste than we do for our regular trash. And so I think it was a very good motion for us for the administration to take on and do some research on and address, and we'll be coming forward with a plan to try to meet the goals that Councilor Murphy just mentioned, and were certainly the thrust of his initial motion to recognize some savings in our yard waste program.
Thank you. Accept the report as a report of progress by Councilor Dakota, seconded by Councilor Caulfield. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed is the vote. Any other subcommittee reports? Hearing none, moving on to the petitions. We actually have two petitions, one from Attorney James Flood representing Lowell General Hospital, requesting no parking zone along Varnum Avenue, and the second from Attorney George Eliades representing Kamlesh Patel, trustee of J&K Realty Trust for projecting sign at 25 to 35 Market Street. Motion by Councilor Mendoza, second by Councilor Elliott, to refer both petitions to the Law Department to have the proper vote drawn up. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Thank you. Under the motion section, we have 4 motions remaining this evening. The first motion by Councilor Caulfield. City Council requests the city manager have the proper department replace the street sign on Poulius Way. Second by Councilor Elliott. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Years ago, former Mayor Tassi Poulius was honored by the city by naming the short street going into the Merkland School after him. Poulius Way, the sign is missing, it's gone, so the motion is just to replace that sign, Poulius Way. It's right off of Adams Street, and thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Next up, motion by Council Caulfield. City Council requests the city manager report on the enforcement of the resident parking in the acre section. Second by Council Mercia. Council Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, all the downtown parking meters are computerized, and that's wonderful. We're saving money and so forth. But I imagine the meter maids are now out into the neighborhoods. And this gentleman called me, lives on Mount Washington Street. He's an outstanding citizen in our city, and never ever calls me. And when he did call me, I said there was a problem. And he has told me that there's residential parking in the acre. And when his son visits, he has to run out and put the placard in the windshield. When his grandson visits, he has to do the same thing, put the placard in the windshield. And it's almost like the meter maid is hiding behind a tree or just waiting for an opportune moment. The placard is not there. Ticket. And it's happening not just on Mount Washington Street, but it's happening in other neighborhoods as well. And the sorrowful point of this whole discussion, he had a contractor installing a stove in his house. And the contractor received a ticket. So it's almost, I don't know if these meter maids have a quota or whatever, but I mean, they have to use a little discretion here. And I'm bringing this man's request forward. And I know the meter maids have a tough job, and when someone receives a ticket, they don't like it, but sometimes they have to use some discretion. If there's a contractor working in someone's house, they have to know that if it's a contractor installing a stove, they're there to do business. So that's the gist of the motion. Thank you.
Council Broderick, then Council Mendonça.
Thank you. I understand the gist of the motion, and I think it's a valid concern. Maybe it makes sense to, rather than leaving it up to discretion of meter maids, is to maybe revisit and see what, I don't know what the arrangements are, if it's 15-minute parking or 2-hour or what the deal is, but maybe we ought to look at what the whole parking scheme is out there and make a decision based upon that, rather than asking the meter maid to not enforce it sometimes, because that could create a little bit more chaos and more problems for the neighborhood. So, I don't think I need to ask to amend the motion, but maybe we can take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Mendonça?
Yes. Well, when I first saw the motion, I thought it was to enforce resident parking, not to not enforce resident parking. And so my concern is that we can't expect the meter maids to be mind readers or to have to knock on every door. I mean, it's either resident parking or it's not. And so, I mean, we have to choose one or the other. Either it's resident parking and we enforce it, or we remove the resident parking, and whatever benefits the residents most. But, we can't do both. We have to be reasonable.
Council Mercia?
Well, thank you. I think it's unreasonable if you have residential parking. Are these residents not ever supposed to have work done at their house? I don't understand that. Of course they do. So because they're not a resident, we're going to ticket them? That doesn't make any sense at all. Use common sense. I don't know how you couldn't do that.
Council Martin?
Well, I mean, this is the second complaint now in 2 weeks, one a week for us, so clearly something's going on there. I mean, either there's, we had a letter last week from somebody, 90-some-odd-year-old woman, lived there many years and never got a ticket before, then got a ticket, now we have another one. So something's going on there. I think it deserves a relook at what's going on.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Next motion by Council Elliott. City Council requests the city manager to report on the possibility of a solar energy system at the landfill. Second by Council Murphy. Council Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. I know we've revisited this more than once, and I just wanted to get an update, Mr. Manager, and I know you and I spoke briefly about this beforehand, but I see even in Mass Municipal, large solar projects they seem to be the wave of the future, and solar energy seems to be catching on, and the large utility companies have putting up these solar array or fields all over the place. So maybe because I go by there every day, I don't think we're missing the boat, and I don't want to miss the boat, knowing, oil is per barrel, $80+ per barrel, and we're going to be presumably in an energy crunch in the future. So just wondering if you can give us an update. Maybe the city doesn't invest, but it seems like companies are going to invest, and there's a carve-out, the new carve-out program, where a certain percentage is being sold back to these companies to meet their alternative energy criteria. So long-winded question, explanation, but that's the purpose of the motion.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
Very briefly, we'll get you a full report on this. This is something we've been pushing. We've looked at wind and doing something there. That didn't seem to pan out. We thought some energy, some solar had some potential, and it still may have some potential. It was something that we asked Amoresco, in fact, to look at. Again, the payback there for them was not as good when they looked at it, because there are no, I believe the issue is that there aren't any distribution lines leaving that area that would tie in, so that was an added cost. But things have changed a little bit in the market, and we have actually been talking to some different companies that are looking for some demonstration projects that they may be able to do something with. So we'll get you a full report on that. It is something we are pursuing, though.
I think that's a good way to phrase it. Things are changing, and solar energy is clearly on the uptake. In fact, even utility companies never used to get involved. They're actually, they're getting involved to offset, again, to meet certain criteria that they have to do in greenhouse gas reduction and things of that nature. So I think that's the best way to put it. Things are changing, and good that we're looking at alternatives.
Right, and in the Amoresco project, which was just voted, there are 5 solar projects included within that. But you're right, this is a sort of a different large scale, but we'll get a full report on that.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed to the vote. Last motion of the evening by Councilor Dakota.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to evoke the 10 o'clock rule so that we could go past it for this one last motion.
I was going to say we still have time,
Be
but
fast.
okay.
I can do 3 minutes.
Councilor invoke the 10 o'clock rule, second by Councilor Mendonça. No. No. Okay. We'll keep moving then. Councilor Dakota, City Council requests the city manager have the proper department meet with the retail business community in the historic overlay district to review current policies for relevance based on changes in current landscape, historic preservation priorities, and business needs. Seconded by Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Dakota.
Thank you very much. I'll be quick. And first, I would like to state my conflict, as I am one of these residential businesses that will be involved in the conversation, and would like my vote recorded as present, please. But it is incumbent upon us as policymakers to regularly review our policies, and particularly when they affect residents and business owners, the business community. So this motion is simply about that, an opportunity for our departments to speak with the people in the historic overlay district and see if things are working and see if there's opportunity for improvement. Okay. Did I make it?
Yes, you did. Thank you, Councilor Dakota. Any further discussion on the motion? No. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Councilor Dakota votes present. Thank you. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Elliott. Thank you. Good meeting. It is exactly 9:58.